Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast, Thursday edition of the Rodcast. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially in football season, college football. You got some college football tonight. We'll get into, of course, all the college football coming up this weekend, some big matchups. Talk a little bit about the Aggies. They got one of the biggest matchups of the weekend facing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We'll dive into that conversation. We'll also talk some Texas football. Of course, Texas versus Colorado State. You know, I'm deep into the game plan, so we'll go into that when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. Teams are solidifying and finalizing their practice squads in the NFL. So we'll talk about the Longhorns who made some of those practice squads. We'll also get into the final 53-man rosters. The Longhorn representation now in the NFL, positional wise, we'll break that down and we'll break it down what that means and what that can tell us about the roster construction at Texas, about their representation in the NFL. So we'll get into that too coming up. CJ Stroud's MVP odds are getting a lot of love. We'll get into that coming up a little bit later on. There's also a bad omen for Texas football. We got to do something about that. We'll discuss it. CeeDee Lamb's new contract has put the pressure on a lot of teams now to make their deals and finalize their contract extensions with their wide receiver ones. San Fran and Cincinnati are feeling the stress officially. We have some audio from the GM and the head coach of those teams. And at this point, it's do or die for those situations. We'll get into it coming up. We'll also talk about another NCAA controversy that is brewing, and it actually has a connection to the University of Texas. And the transfer market in college football has officially hit its peak. It has jumped the shark, I guess you could say. We'll talk about that too coming up when we go into Rod's rant of the day. We got your usual favorites. We got who said that. We got off the record. We got what the facts, what the stats. Topic for the big fat poll of the day. Yep, we are loaded, of course, on a Thursday. Before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He is one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. It was we inch closer to the weekend, inch closer to Saturday, and just watching football all day, and I can't wait for it. I didn't get to watch game day last week. Did you watch any of game day last week?
I did not. I had a lot going on last week.
It was
I'm trying to wrap up adulting before the season actually starts. So I had some stuff I had to do. I had to go see the family down in H-Town. So
I didn't get to see game day. So I didn't get to see Nick Saban on game day. So I'll be interested to see some of that. Apparently it was a drunker game day than it's normally been because they were in Ireland.
Oh, yeah. That was Pat McAfee, I heard. I heard Pat McAfee was wild. And Pat McAfee's one of those dudes that can get drunk on live TV and people think it's like endearing.
Well, and that's what the people that get mad at him are the ones who are going to be mad at him anyway. And the people who like it were going to like him anyway. So he's like, what are you going to do? It's not going to really change my image at all.
I don't think anything of it, but like he's one of the people that can do it though without getting like a ton of blowback because it's like how Charles Barkley can say things other people can't say. You have to already establish yourself as being one of those types of personalities, and then it's not shocking when you say it.
Exactly.
So that's kind of it's not shocking. He's dropping F-bombs on ESPN. It ain't shocking that he gets a little tipsy and gets drunk on TV. Like that's part of his persona. I get it. I ain't mad at him. I'm glad. Hey man, I think everybody in this industry trying to get to the Pat McAfee level at this point. He's one of them.
Exactly. Everybody wants to get to the point where or now you want to get to that Kelsey brothers, just get $100 million.
Yeah, that Kelsey. There you go. Kelsey brothers dating a pop star, sell your podcast for $100 million. That's they're my heroes at this point. So I ain't hating on McAfee at all.
Let me tell you about my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Yeah, that's interesting that you brought up Nick Saban because I got a topic that I'm going to get into a little bit later on. One of my hot takes about an all-time great is probably going to die out this particular offseason, and we'll talk about why that's the case. One of my famous hot takes from, I don't know, I've probably been having this hot take for like a decade now. It's going to die. It's officially, and it happens sometimes. You have like a really great take, and you can keep using it because it continues to be true. It won't be true anymore. Actually, it's going to die this football season. So I'll get into that too coming up a little bit later on. One of my hot takes it's going to grow very, very cold after this football season, and I'm looking forward to it actually because I can't wait. I'm very intrigued by this storyline. All right, so we got a lot to get into, and there's a ton we'll dive into here on the show today, NFL and college football related. I do, and by the way, this is not even a college football story. Matter of fact, we'll get into this here in the first segment a little bit about the NCAA controversy for those who have not heard. And it does have a Texas tie. And right now, I think it's being settled in the courts potentially, or at least the start of this thing is being settled in the court. So we'll talk about that too, because it hit my timeline a few times, and I was like, whoa, this must be a really big story. Did some diving. Turns out is a big story. But not enough people are talking about it. Since there's a Texas tie, we can get into it. So we'll do that too coming up here in the first segment. We'll talk about the bad omen for Texas football. They can fix this immediately. They can fix it right now, and they need to do it. All right, now this is serious. Well, it's kind of serious, but it's still, I think it's serious enough to put a bad jinx on the season. Bad mojo in the season. We don't want that.
All right.
I'm usually not very, I'm not, honestly, I'm not superstitious. That's nearly not me. But this, I don't know. It hit me in the feels. It hit me all a little personally. So I think we should voice it, and we're going to bring attention to it so that Longhorn fans can change it. We've done that before. So we'll see if the tail can wag the dog here. All right. So we got a lot to get into. Before we do, though, let's get updated. Let's get informed. Let's get educated on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines. Then we'll come back and dive deep into all of it. But first, Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros salvaged a game in their series with the Phillies with a dominant 10-0 win yesterday. Spencer Arrighetti carried a no-hitter into the eighth inning before leaving after pitching 7 2/3 innings, striking out 11 in the shutout win for the Astros. Yordan Alvarez also added 3 straight home runs in the game to get the bats going before their weekend series with the Royals that starts tomorrow. And the Rangers won both games of their doubleheader over the White Sox yesterday. Marcus Semien and Corey Seager drilled in runs in the 7th in Game 1 to grab the lead in a 3-1 victory. Then in Game 2, Corey Seager hit the go-ahead run in the 9th, and an amazing Travis Janikowski walk-off stealing catch led the Rangers to a 4-3 win in Game 2. Nathan Eovaldi takes him out for the Rangers today as they look to sweep the White Sox. And in college football, Week 1 kicks off tonight with number 11 Missouri versus Murray State, number 12 Utah versus Southern Utah, number 22 Kansas versus Lindenwood, and number 24 NC State versus West Carolina. In other action, North Carolina faces Minnesota in a battle of two teams, hoping to surprise with new quarterbacks at the helm. And that's your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Appreciate those. Okay, so let's talk about the bad omen first for Texas. And like I said, this was brought to my attention via Twitter, and I'll give the credit to Grant Pinkerton, who does barbecue, Pinkerton's Barbecue. He put it out there, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I got to throw this out there. I got to put this on the show, and I got to voice it to the people. Right now, Texas football, their Twitter account. You know how many people they're following? 666.
So they need to follow somebody else.
They need to follow or drop. They need to unfollow somebody.
You got to follow somebody because then you can just keep following, and then you're never going to hit that number again.
That is, either way, you can't go into the football season. You can't start the football season following 666 people.
I mean, maybe
666.
Maybe they made a deal to win the season. Maybe.
Hey, you know what? You shouldn't say that, Patrick, because Longhorn fans will be fine with it. Half of y'all Longhorn fans will be fine selling y'all soul to the devil right now and just deciding to burn in hell for eternity so y'all can get one championship. Half of y'all would agree to that. Should be the big fat poll of the day.
Man, going to the SEC, we got to beat the Aggies and the Sooners this year and Arkansas.
They made an unholy deal? Man, tell me, say it ain't so. No, I refuse to believe it. And I know I would not sell my soul for another championship.
Who was the 600?
They'll win one eventually. You ain't got to sell your soul for it. They'll win one. Come on. Who's in charge of this?
Who is this 666 follow?
Actually, let's see. Followers. I don't know. I don't know. Does it? I don't know if
think it
they
shows
list
you
them
all
like
of
that.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they list them like in order that you started following them. So I don't want to call anybody out and say
my guess is it's a recruit.
You're probably right about that.
So you just watch out for that recruit,
really good
and you're
chance
fine.
That's the case.
As long as he goes somewhere else, then we're all right. Then
it's a really good chance that's the case. Yeah. So I don't really know who the less. I don't know. I don't care. I just need them to follow somebody else. On Saturday when kickoff happens, if they are at 666, I will feel very uncomfortable. But like you said, maybe they made a deal with the devil to sell their soul for a championship this year. And if that's the case, like I said, half of y'all Longhorn fans, y'all be fine with it. And that's
my only problem is make sure it's for all the sports. Like don't just football. I mean, if you're going to sell your soul, like get basketball and baseball in there too.
Well,
come on, guys. Get a good deal.
It's going to cost more then. It's going to cost you more. What are you talking about? It costs more. You want all of them to win? No, they cost you a lot more, man. We know this is a football school.
You're already a good football team, though. Like, it's not that much of a reach. It'd be one thing if you were like Coastal Carolina and you had to make a deal. And yeah, but we have good teams in all of those.
Pick a sport you're like average at or above average. Let that sport make the run, make the class.
Yeah, that's just what I'm saying. You're already close on everything. The Devils got to do barely any work.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know why. So they notice this. There's somebody's job who is to keep up with social media for Texas football, and they're either cool with it being at 666, knowing damn well what that means, or like you said, the deal is done, and the devil wants his props, and the devil's like, you can do it discreetly. All right, just give me something, and then boom, we found it. Okay.
All right, this is the problem.
Change it.
How many do they have? How many are they following on like Instagram? Because if it's on all of them, then it's a problem.
All right, let's go check Texas football on Instagram. CB will let us know. I'm gonna go check it out. I'm just saying, but don't you think? Isn't that weird?
No, because I mean, the fact that you're on Twitter, the fact that any of us are on Twitter, already kind of puts us in
they're
hell.
Following 626 on Instagram.
If they get 40 more before Saturday.
Say, if they start following 40 more people, oh man, come on now on Instagram. Then we're gonna check this again tomorrow. We're gonna check Instagram tomorrow, man. We're gonna check it tomorrow.
Well, the sad part
is
they're
still at 666 for Twitter. Then on Instagram they jump up 40.
If they jump up 40 tomorrow, then they're listening and they're like
messing with us. They're playing mind games with us, man. Or like I said, the devil is like, hey, I don't care if they know. You want to win it. You want to win it all. This is the deal. All right. I hope that changes. I don't even know when.
You got to follow a guy on Instagram called Lou Siffer. That old Lou over there, Lou Siffer.
He's got. Oh yeah, that's great. That is fantastic. All right. I just want to bring that to y'all's attention. I know y'all think that's kind of weird too. Everybody knows what that means. Like there's nobody out, no generation that's unaware of what 666 means. All right, so Texas, what are you doing here? Let's come on now. All right, anyway, I already put too much time into that. I just wanted to be people to be aware of it because it'll make its way to the 40 acres, or it'll make its way behind the burn-on curtain. We put it out there; it'll make its way. Why are y'all at 666? Don't get it. Change it, please. Let's take care of that.
Anyone who spent any time on X now knows that it is somewhat of a hellscape in itself. So. Not that surprising.
Yes, we agree. I totally agree with that. No doubt. That's why I think one of our civilized souls caught it, and I'm glad. Thank you for catching it, Pinkerton, and bringing it to my attention. I appreciate that. All right. Here's the other story that I was saying. They had a Texas connection. Just really quickly before we move on, and we'll get into some college football discussion. So there's a Texas freshman. Her name is Maya Joint. I know it's a great name, actually. She was competing in the U.S. Open and won $140,000 by advancing to the second round of the major. Even if she didn't make it any further, she would take home only 7% of that. She was born in Michigan, but she competes in Australia. She is the latest athlete to bump into the NCAA's rules restricting prize money. This is a thing. NCAA rules state, which are antiquated as we know. In tennis, prior to full-time collegiate enrollment, an individual may accept up to $10,000 per calendar year in prize money based on his or her place, finish, or performance in open athletic events, events that are invitation only. Once the individual has reached a $10,000 limit in a particular year, he or she may receive additional prize money on a per event basis, provided such prize money does not exceed the individual's actual and necessary expenses for participation in the event. I know it's annoying. So Joint acknowledged like she said, it's very complicated. She said, as a student athlete, you can take the money from the tournament, but you have to like make expenses until the end of the year. She said basically, so it's different from amateur to college. So there was another situation. Reese Brantmeyer in March sued the NCAA, alleging that the prize money restrictions amounted to illegal price fixing. Brantmeyer won $50,000 from basically U.S. Tennis Association for her play in the 2021 U.S. Open, but she was still ineligible her freshman year at North Carolina because the NCAA deemed some of her expenses unnecessary. She said she wasn't cleared to play until she made a little over $5,000, $5,100 donation to charity. Essentially, among other reparations, she is seeking for the NCAA to be restrained from restricting prize money to other people. On July 2nd, attorneys for Brantmeyer requested a preliminary injunction that would temporarily block the NCAA from enforcing its prize money restrictions. If that injunction were granted, Joint would be able to basically take whatever money she wins at the U.S. Open and still play for the University of Texas. Joint was one of two college athletes who filed briefs supporting Brantmeyer's request for injunction, and a judge in North Carolina heard Brantmeyer's case for blocking the NCAA prize money rule last month, has yet to rule on it. Spokesman for the U.S. Open and Texas women's tennis team did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Despite the rules, Joint says she's fine and has sought guidance from her parents and compliance office at the University of Texas. She says, if I go to college, then I get my scholarship spot. If I decide to go pro in the meantime, I can always come back on scholarship, which she said is a huge deal for her. So there you go. NCAA once again on the wrong side of history. And it's because of their antiquated rules that they refuse to update, and you have to make them update via the courts. We're going through this now with the antitrust settlements in major college sports and the new framework of revenue sharing. But easily, this is something I thought was a good idea. They could place the money in like an escrow account that Joint can't access until she turns pro. Just put it away. Still got the money, just can't access it right now. Or they could pay her. USTA could pay her like $140,000 as part of like an NIL deal, where she makes whatever obligations of the NIL deal, whatever it is, promote the brand and do appearances, and she can get the money that way. So there are ways around it. I mean, but I don't know, the NCAA, this is a rule on the books that nobody addressed until recently. So
no, it's all in that world of what amateurism still is in 2024. Exactly. And that there's so much money in all these sports now that, that's what you say is the amount of money when they probably made that rule $10,000. Like, yeah, you won Wimbledon. So yeah, you can't play college sports. 1970. $10,000. Yeah. What are you're winning major tournaments to win $10,000. Yeah. And now it's like, well, you made it past the third round. You're $10,000. So you have to update these for money. So now the rule should be, look, if you've made over $1 million or you made 500,000, some much bigger number, and you just bump the number up and you go, now your first million, you're a pro now. You can't come back to college. You have made way too much money. You don't need to go back to college. You've won more in a year than you need to win. You could say that, but yeah, $10,000 that's clearly a written a long time ago rule. Like
they're all like that. They're unfortunately they're all kind of, except the like the new ones. They're the NIL rules. Yeah. They're all antiquated, and they're all from a time where amateurism was the law of the land. Now NIL is now the new law of the land. Yeah. The free market, which is NIL is even if you want to say the free market, and the free market and capitalism. That's why the NCAA has always been afraid of the free market, because they knew it would kill them. Like it would destroy the NCAA, and that's essentially what NIL is doing. It's emasculating the NCAA, taking away all their power.
Yeah, I mean,
the free market, it has the power.
But that's like you just have to look at the fact of like what $10,000 was when this rule was written versus that, and take out the fact that it shouldn't be a rule in the first. Like it doesn't need to be a rule in 2024 anyway, with the way the landscape's changed. But even just looking at, well, in $10,000 you could buy a car. And when this rule was written, you could put a down payment on a house. And now either one of those things, you walk in with $10,000, you're like, yeah, what do you want to do? That's nothing.
Inflation.
Yeah. There's the prices have soared. And so, yeah, that's silly to adhere to a rule that it's, and again, the NCAA just, instead of being on it and seeing a thing and going,
they just leave them on the books and forget about it.
Instead of saying, oh man, hey man, there's a problem. This is one where we could take a real W here and fix the problem immediately and say, guys, that was the old regime. NCAA, new NCAA. You know what? We found it. If you find more of these weird rules, bring them to our attention. We'll re-vote on them. That was the old regime. Those crusty old guys, they're gone, man. We're the new NCAA. We're cool now. We're hip.
We're player friendly.
Please don't kick us out of college football. Please.
Yeah. Which is going to happen anyway.
It's going to, but that's, I mean, this is one of those simple things that they should have already made a statement on or pushed back and just said, oh, no, we agree with you. That's an outdated rule. We'll figure out a new way, but don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. Once again, the NCAA shooting themselves in the foot. Okay, let's get to the NFL rosters here, the NFL 53-man rosters and the Longhorns who are represented on those rosters. Shout out to my man, Jeff Howell over at Horns 24/7. I think he did a thorough breakdown here. And so basically I looked at all the different positions that were represented on the 53-man rosters and the practice squads, because practice squad still keeps the dream alive, and in injured reserve too, because by the way, I've been on all those. Been on practice squad, been on injured reserve, and been on the 53-man roster. And my career wasn't that long. So quite a journey. But those are the guys who are keeping the dream alive, right? They still have a chance. And if you're on the outside, you still got a shot too, but it's really, really tough. Once you're no longer in one of those kind of three, once you're not in one of those three pots, once you're not a practice squad guy or on the injured reserve or now on the 53-man roster, really tough to make your way back into the league. So of all those guys, the positions that are most represented, and I was a little surprised when I saw it too, D-line is the most represented position for Texas. You got 8 D linemen currently in the league, on practice squad or on injury reserve. Taquan Graham, Malcolm Roach, Poona Ford, Murrow Ojimo, Byron Murphy, Kendrick Coburn, Tavondre Sweat. If you consider Joseph Osai's an edge to be in there, and you can throw him in there too. Then there's Charles Omenihu, and Charles Omenihu is on the injured reserve. He's only physically unable to perform, I should say. But he's also, you can throw him in the list. So essentially, you're talking about, essentially 9 D linemen overall in the NFL for Texas. That's a big number. I didn't expect that to be the case. So tells you a lot. I mean, that's something that Texas has been, even through different regimes, they've been able to put out and develop quality D linemen. And I know that's been a concern for Longhorn fans recently, especially with Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy leaving. But just a reason to be optimistic that, that's something Texas has done a really, really good job of. I'm not saying they're D-line but that is something that I think Texas can hang their hat on. They put a lot of quality D-linemen into the league in recent years. The other position that I think well represented, wide receiver for Texas. And so Colin Johnson ended up making the practice squad, I believe, for Chicago. Lil Jordan Humphrey also made the practice squad for Denver. So congrats to those guys. But the wide receiver position, and this is a credit to Sark. You got A.D. Mitchell, in addition to Colin Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, A.D. Mitchell, Devin Duvernay, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington. Hell, and 3 of those guys are from the most recent draft. Just so it's because Sark's that wide receiver position, probably, if you look at it in 2 years, it'll probably have the most players in the NFL in terms of representing the University of Texas. If Sark keeps going at this pace. And he's a wide receiver guy, right? Really hands-on with the wide receivers, hand picks his wide receivers, likes a certain type of wide receiver. And I think he's really helping the NFL become a little bit more open and the NFL being a little bit more accepting of his type of wide receivers, a little bit small but fast guys. And he's giving them a really compelling blueprint on how to weaponize and use those guys from his time at Texas with Xavier Worthy and his time at Alabama with a guy like Devontae Smith. We talked about this earlier with the way he uses those guys, the slight frames, but the speedy wide receivers, putting them in the slot, putting them in motion, finding ways to really scheme those types of players open. And now the NFL more willing to invest in those types of wide receivers earlier in the draft when at one point they were not. I'll give Sark a lot of credit for that. But wide receiver, I think, is going to blow up. It's going to explode in terms of the wide receiver production at Texas over the next few years. And then, of course, those guys will get a lot of NFL opportunities because of that. Only one tight end in the league, which makes sense right now. I mean, you did Andrew Beck was a tight end slash fullback for the Texans recently, and I have not seen him get picked up by anybody and on a practice squad or anything. So there's one tight end. That's of course JT Sanders, which makes sense, right? That's reflective of the tight end being an endangered species on the 40 acres for the last 10 years or so. You're going like a decade plus without elite tight ends, and now you're just starting to now have a resurgence, kind of a revitalization, if you will, of that position at Texas with JT Sanders, and now hopefully with the guys now with Amari Niblack and Gunnar Helm, like a young Jordan Washington looks pretty good too. Juan Davis in that room, so that is the hope there, and one quarterback for Texas on the roster, and that is, of course, Sam Ehlinger with the Indianapolis Colts. I did see the DBs. One thing I noticed about the DBs, though, since we're talking about the players on roster, you got three cornerbacks. One is on IR. That was Ryan Watts. Two of them, Deshaun Jameson and Chris Boyd, actually made 53-man rosters. And you ended up with, I believe, 6 safeties. Actually, I take that back, 7 safeties, because Caden Stearns was picked up by Philly on their practice squad. So I'll the shout out to Caden Stearns there. But then as you go look at the other safeties that made the rosters, Brandon Jones, PJ Locke, Brendan Schooler, Deshaun Elliott, Quandre Diggs. So you ended up with 6 safeties. I think total, if you throw Caden Stearns in there too. One thing you'll notice about the DBs, and adding the corners in there, versatility is big with this group, right? Think about how many guys in the secondary that played multiple positions. Brandon Jones played nickel and played every safety position for you. PJ Locke played every position in the secondary, damn near. Brandon Schooler played multiple positions, like literally on offense and on defense. Quandre Diggs has played safety, corner, and nickel for you too. Versatility. It seems to be a theme with the DBs for Texas. At least half of those guys played multiple positions in the secondary, and that versatility, that multiplicity in their skill set was valued at the highest levels. I mean, that's definitely what's kept some of those guys around, especially a guy like PJ Locke and Quandre Diggs, who's with the Titans right now. We talked about him the other day. So that's one theme that I kind of noticed, and that's goes back to Sark, right? And I'm not saying all these guys obviously aren't Sark guys, but Sark now, he is valuing versatility in the secondary. We've talked about this, whether you talk about recruiting or you're talking about cross-training guys in development. One of the big buzzwords of the offseason has been versatility. He's talked about it time and time again. Position flex, multiplicity, cross-training players, because it offers you solutions, but it's also going to be an asset for these guys when NFL scouts are looking at them. They love players who can move around the chessboard, who can manufacture depth for them. And if they don't work out at one position, let's see if they have a little bit more promise at another one. And you're seeing that theme, that theme, I think, be consistent with the DBs in the NFL. And that was the case when I was on the 40 acres. I mean, it's on a kind of a throwback mentality and philosophy. When Coach Akina got here initially and he was dealing with the air raid offenses, he simply said, to us, I need 5 tool DBs. I need guys that don't have to leave the field. If you're a safety, you have to be able to cover like a corner. And if you're a corner, I need you to be able to tackle like a safety. And which is why everybody in my secondary played multiple positions. Ahmad Brooks was a cornerback, switch to safety. Quentin Jammer was a safety that moved to corner. Nathan Vasher started out as a nickel, then went to safety, then went to corner, played all 3 positions in the secondary. I played nickel, then I played corner. Nobody in that secondary was playing one position because you had to cross train. He had to see if you could do both. He had to see if you were able to tackle like a safety and be physical as a safety, but also be able to cover like a corner. And that's what led to the Huff Daddies. That's what led to your Kenny Vaccaros and your Aaron Williams and your Quandre Diggs and all these really versatile Michael Griffin, these freakish versatile DBs, was the philosophy that I need a 5-2 DB. I really don't. I'm really not looking for a cornerback specifically or a safety specifically. I'm looking for the best overall DBs I can find who bring all the tools to the table. Earl Thomas, he said to me, Earl Thomas was going to be his nickel until he's seen Earl Thomas at safety and said, well, he makes too many plays at safety. I can't move him to nickel when he's making all these plays at safety. But Coach Akina thought Earl Thomas would be a really good nickel too. And I don't disagree with that at all. So the reason you get that, I think ultimately that was the peak, the apex of the philosophy for Coach Akina. I think now it's just kind of a throwback. This is a retro idea that Coach Akina is using, that Coach Coach Sark is using, that Coach Akina wants to use, and I think it's helping all these guys in the league. And some of those guys are from that that Coach Akina tree, and Quandre Diggs being one of them. He's kind of the last of the Mohicans, if you will. But he's the ultimate versatile piece. Plays corner, plays safety, plays nickel, can play any position in secondary. Physical, can cover. There's really nothing he can't do. Last of the Akina breeds, and I think that's what Coach Sark is trying to establish, and Coach PK are trying to establish on defense now too. All right, there you go. So some Longhorn football conversation. We come back. We'll continue Longhorn football conversation. So we'll go behind the Burnt Orange curtain, talk about Texas versus Colorado State. I figured out how I think Texas is going to get to Braden Fowler Nicolosi. He gets rid of the football really fast. Their pass protection is one of the best, or at least last year is one of the best in the country. Top 15, only 14 sacks allowed. But there's a Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but that we got to get to on the other side. Right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation. Let's talk about Colorado State a little bit more. I was doing some research and looking at this matchup. I feel even stronger, more adamant about some of the tendency breakers Texas is going to see in this matchup. One of them is about Torrey Horton. We talked about Torrey Horton ad nauseum, right? He's a stud. He's the best player on that team. He's going to be drafted. He'll be considered one of the top, maybe top 5 to 8 best receivers in the country. He's got a chance, I believe, set the conference record in receiving yards this year. Last season, 2,267 receiving yards. Only 3 receivers had more than them, and those guys are Romo Dunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison Jr. So in the last 2 years, he's accumulated over 2,200 receiving yards, and the only guys who have had more or were first round picks last season. Yeah. Or in the previous draft, I should say. So he's the real deal. I talked about his speed, average top speed of nearly 22 miles per hour, so he can run. He's actually from Fresno too, which is weird. I bet him and Xavier Worthy know each other because Xavier Worthy's from Fresno. I bet they know. There's no way they don't know each other, and they were kind of close. I think in years there to be that. I know Fresno's probably produces a lot of athletes, and it's bigger than you think. But I bet they know of one another or know each other. But anyway, he's like I said, he's also a speed demon. If you go look at this, and this is something I said earlier this week, in his career, he's been out wide like 75% of the time, which makes him easier to defend if he's been out wide. And prior to him at coming to Colorado State, he was at Nevada, where he was out wide a lot. So it makes him easier to, I don't know, makes him easier to take away, makes him easier for Texas to isolate him when he's already out wide, isolated to a certain extent. And I said one of the tendency breakers, it has to be if they're going to move him around more, especially against Texas. You leave him out there out wide 75% of the time. And a lot of the time it was to the right side of the formation too, which is, I think, kind of an air raid principle. And we talked about that, how air raid offenses like their wide receivers to specialize in certain roles. And so he was out, him being out there wide. Now, I'm not saying he can't win. He can win his fair share. But if I'm Texas, I'm taking away his strength. I'm taking away inside breaking routes. So if he's out wide, I'm going to have a corner playing, first of all, bump and run coverage on him. And why is he playing bump and run? Well, because 575 of his over 1,100 yards receiving, those come within throws within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. So they're a quick game offense, trying to get the ball out quick within 0 to 10 yards. And that's where most of his damage is done. He's got 575 yards after the catch. So in addition to his 575 of his yards come on throws of 10 yards or less, 575, same number, also come on yards after the catch. And that's 11th most in college football. So I want to take that away. I want to take away his yak and rack ability, and I want to take away his comfort zone, which is that sweet spot between 0 to 9 yards. And for Braden Fowler Nicolosi, damn near 51% of all of his throws are in that sweet spot, 0 to 9 yards, 10 yards or fewer. That's his sweet spot too. So if damn near half of his passing game is right there, 0 to 9 yards, you can take away his favorite weapon in his favorite part of the field, or favorite area of the field to throw the football to. So you play bump and run, you play inside leverage, because they love a slant, they love an inside breaking route, they love a glance, they love an in route. Take that away. Make them throw it over your head to the outside. And when they try to test you, if they play bump and run, I'd put a safety over the top of it, over the top of Torrey Horton, just to make sure that you take him out of the equation. And when you do that, I think ultimately, they're going to decide to move him around more, or they may already have it in the plan. Like I said, that's what I'm trying to guess, doing my best to try to, predict exactly how they're going to attack Texas. I think they're going to move Torrey Horton around. Now, here is the thing that worries me a little bit. That's it. You put him on the outside, I got a simple way to take him out of the game. Right? Bump and run coverage, heavy inside leverage, safety over the top. They put him in the slot, you can bracket him, but maybe a little bit tougher, but you can bracket him, meaning somebody's got the outside cut, somebody's got the inside cut on him. Or somebody takes the high-low, somebody takes the quick routes, or the routes from 5 to 10 yards, and then you got another guy over the top. So you can bracket him in the slot too. But when he's in the slot, and I don't know why they don't do it more often. He was only in the slot like 21% of the time last season. I think they're gonna put it should be 50% of the time. Or they should flip it. He should be only out wide 21% of the time, and the other, the 70-some%, 79%, he should be in the slot. And here's why: he averages around versus man coverage around 2.85 yards per route run versus man coverage. He's about 2.74 yards per route run. If you go look at it overall versus zone coverage, which is totally respectable. So 2.74, 2.8, these are around the same production versus man versus zone. And he's really, really good there. His yards per route run in the slot, it jumps to 4.18. To put that into perspective for you, the Pro Football Focus college football era record for yards per route run slot is actually Devonta Smith. In the year Sark was his OC at Alabama, and he was the architect and won the Heisman, right? One of the greatest seasons ever for a wide receiver. His yards per route run in the slot, that year he won the Heisman with Sark calling the plays and designing the plays, 4.96. Really good. This guy's 4.18. He's so his yards per route run in the slot is approaching one of the most productive, basically one of the productive profiles we've seen from a wide receiver in the slot in the college football, pro football focus era. So that's what they should do more of. I'm sure they have those numbers too. He should be in the slot more than half the time. And against Texas, I think he will be in the slot a lot more. If you go look at his targets per route run in the slot, he's at I think 16. I mean, he's got 10. He's got 23 forced missed tackles on the season. 10 of them were in the slot, and he's only in the slot like 21% of the time. He is a monster there. That's one of my predictions. They put him in the slot a lot more, at least half the time. And so that I think is going to be something Texas has to account for and be ready for. And something, and another thing I think would help you if you play a lot more bump and run and press coverage against Colorado State. Now, I don't know if Colorado State's going to run a lot of bunch formation and they'll run a lot of reduced splits and condensed and compressed sets. If they do that, it's going to deter Texas from being able to play bump and run coverage, get their hands on the receivers. But they like spread sets, just like, a lot of air raids. They like their spread sets. So when they do have the guys spread out and you can take away the short, quick, intermediate game, I think it's important for Texas to do so, to take advantage of that, because they want to throw the ball short. They want to throw it short, and they want their receivers to give them some rack and yak yards. That's why if you go look at, Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, he gets the ball out so quickly, an average of 2.6 seconds time to throw, which is a little too quick for the pass rush to get home. Maybe you can have your D linemen get their hands up and clog up passing lanes. That's why Texas having the defensive ends with these huge wingspan like Ethan Burke and Colton Vosick and Baron Sorrell, that helps. Having players with true BGO and speed rush, elite speed rush, that'll help too. That's your Colin Simmons, that's your Trey Moore. Even the big guys inside, Alfred Collins, got the big frame, Vernon Broughton. If you can't get home, get your hands up. I think all those things will help Texas. I think ultimately, if you want him to hold on to the ball a little bit longer, you got to take away this short, quick game. Period. That will force him to go to the second level and go deeper into his progression. If he does that, he's going to hold on to the ball longer. So his time to throw when he's throwing to 0 to 9 yards, 2.3 seconds. Even faster than 2.6. You ain't getting there. If he's throwing to 0 to 9 yards, which is, by the way, he does 51% of the time, you ain't getting there. That's why they only allowed 14 sacks last year. They were top 15 in sacks allowed, because if he throws there 50% of the time, and if he's throwing quick, it's 2.3 seconds, ball is out. I mean, unless you're Von Miller, unless you're one of these all-time freaks, you ain't getting there. You got to have that kind of BGO. But the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but is if you can force him to go to the intermediate area, which is 10 to 19 yards in his progression, force him to go a little bit deeper to the next level, he holds on to the ball. His average time to throw when he's throwing to 10 to 19 yards, 3.2 seconds. It takes him almost a second longer to throw to 10 to 19-yard area than it does to the 0 to 9-yard area. You can get there. You can get home. But you got to take away the short game. You let him have that short game, he's going to take it all day and every day and twice on Sunday. So you got to take that away. You flood that area, force him to hold on to the ball just a second longer, literally, damn near a second longer, 3.22 seconds. That's when you have a chance to get sacks. That's when you got a chance to make some splash plays on defense. And don't forget, Nicolosi will throw you a few. And this is even, to me, I think it's even more important. That's why you take away Torrey Horton, take him out of the mix. Guy underneath playing bump and run, guy over the top. He's going to hold on to the ball longer anyway. When you take him away, you take away all the short underneath stuff, especially, and I'll say especially on passing downs, but they want to throw the ball on every damn down. They want to throw it 40 to 45 times. You take away the short area, he's going to hold on to the ball. Half a second or more longer. Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, Barron Terrell, Ethan Burke, Colton Vasek, that's when they can go to work. That's when your upgraded pass rush can really get to Nicolosi. But if he's getting rid of the ball in rhythm, on time, then he's doing it from 0 to 9 yards. You ain't going to get there in 2.3 seconds. You can get there in 3.2. That's the lesson. So that's how I would approach it if I'm Texas. If you want to make those splash plays, now you may not care. You may just say we're gonna play it straight up. We play it straight up, and if we stop them, we stop them. If we have to make an adjustment to Torrey Horton, we will. I would be aggressive. I would start out the season taking team strengths away. I wouldn't start out in a conservative manner. People say go vanilla. Why the hell would we take it easy on anybody? I'm not going vanilla. My initial thought would be just take away their strength, take away what they're good at. They're good at the short game, the quick game, take it away. They're good at the underneath routes. Now, the problem with taking away the short game is you did that late last season, and you did a great job of it against Texas Tech. Kind of an air raid route. You did a great job taking away the short intermediate game, and Texas Tech wasn't smart enough to figure out the counter, or they weren't good enough to execute the counter, which is what Oklahoma State did and what Washington did. Because the counter to that bump and run is, well, let's see if they can defend the deep ball. Because if you're being very aggressive, taking away inside breaking routes, taking away the short quick game, well, that means you are going to be somewhat susceptible to the deep ball. In Oklahoma State, threw the deep ball on Texas, and they were, I would say, pretty successful throwing it 3 of 7 on passes 20 yards or more down the field. Had a PI call. There was a non-PI call. There was another play that probably should have been a deep reception that the quarterback just missed him on. And then Washington went to work. But that's the best deep ball passing team in the country, but they went to work. And then honestly, all the Texas quarterbacks went to work doing the same thing in the spring game, throwing that deep ball. Especially when think about how many times Texas was playing bump and run on those guys, and they threw the deep ball on them in the spring game. Happened a few times, didn't it? Yeah. So that's the natural counter to you playing aggressive bump and run is, can you defend the deep ball on top of that? Can you turn and run and still be in phase to defend that? That is the question I have for Texas. It'll be tested if they go with my game plan. If they go with it, my strategy, then that'll be tested versus Colorado State. But if you got a safety over the top of Torrey Horton, no need to worry. It'll be Armani Winfield. It'll be the other guy, Gaffney. It'll be those guys that try to test you over the top, maybe without as much safety help. Okay, there you go. So that's some game plan for Colorado State about their offense versus the Texas defense. We'll jump to the other side of the ball too a little bit later on. But first, let's get to the break and get to the topic, the big fat poll, the topic for the big fat poll today, and your musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm by the time Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Back on the Rodcast here on a Thursday, making it a new theme Thursday, where I'll pick a new theme each week. And today's theme is Saturday. Since we're just waiting for Saturday for Texas football season to start, all the songs have Saturday in the titles. That's what we're waiting for. I know we got football tonight, but we're waiting for Saturday. We're waiting for Texas football season to start. So we will be playing songs with Saturday in the title all show long here. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day. 512-447-3776 is the text line. We'll also get this posted up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
So we just talked about how Colorado State could attack Texas and about how you can try and get in to Braden Fowler Nicolosi's head a little bit, try and create some chaos for Braden Fowler Nicolosi. So that'll lead us to the big fat poll of the day. Since so many of you guys yesterday, when I said who will score the first touchdown, got a lot of Weisenheimers on the text line that had to chime in and say different defensive players that somehow are going to score the first touchdown, not a touchdown, the first one. So you guys must think there's going to be a lot of turnovers, like monstrous amount of turnovers.
Seriously.
So this is the question today: how many turnovers will Texas cause against Colorado State?
That's good.
How many turnovers? We know that the quarterback is not the best at ball security. He does turn it over some.
No, he struggles.
He struggles. There's a Texas team that wants to be opportunistic. Wasn't always last year, but wants to be opportunistic. So these are the numbers I'm going to give you. 0, 1, 2, 3 plus. So nothing crazy. We're going to say 3 plus. So if you say they're going to turn the ball over 17 times, that goes into 3 plus. Will not justify you with making a 17 plus category, but 0, 1, 2, 3 plus. So 3 plus is where you think they're just going to keep turning the ball over. But if you think they're going to get a couple turnovers in the game, you can go 2 or 1, or you can say no, that this will just be a good solid win, but not a turnover based win.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nicolosi's going to throw you one. He definitely will. I mean, he's got 16 picks last year. Question is, I think he'll offer you more opportunities. I think Texas will definitely get one. Will Texas catch all of the picks that the turnover worthy throws? Will they take advantage of all of those opportunities? I don't know. That's what I'm not. And you can't account for the growth. His growth. He's going to mature a little bit. He was a redshirt freshman, so he's going to mature a little bit in his game. I'm going to say you get 2 turnovers of some kind.
You're going to go with 2.
I'm going to go with 2. 2 is a good number.
2's a good number.
2. Yeah, he's a turnover prone QB, so he'll throw 1 interception. Will you get a strip sack of some kind? Will you get a forced fumble? I'm going to say, based on what I've been hearing in practice, you're going to get a forced fumble. They've been apparently knocking some heads. Remember that early on ball security was an issue for the young running backs? I'm going to say that they knock a ball loose.
I mean, we know they've been trying to. That's been an
emphasis. Yeah, exactly.
An emphasis, and it's been something I think Sark has been preaching since day one, but he hasn't been able to get tackling down and all these other pieces. And he feels he's starting to get some of that other down. So now it's like, okay, we're starting to figure out the basics. So now can we start to get some turnovers too and get that ball back to the offense? Don't leave our defense on the field as much. So that is, I think 3 plus could run away with this on the poll because I think some people are pretty optimistic about it, but I didn't want to give you guys way too many options. So yeah, how many turnovers? Let us know on the text line. If you've got a ratio of them, let us know on the text line, and we'll get that posted up on X. How many turnovers will Texas cause against Colorado State?
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a good, because like I said, 2 seems like a safe number for me. If they get 3, then we can be talking about a defense. They get more than 3. We can be talking about a different type of Texas defense, that we haven't seen in a while. One that swarms, one that's got a lot of ball. Remember, I've been talking about ball hawks and havoc-minded defenders and how you've been adding those guys. Malik Muhammad's one of those, and Janae Barron's a havoc-minded guy. Anthony Hill's a havoc-minded defender. Trey Moore's a havoc-minded defender. You keep adding those guys. Like I said, some guys think ball. I played football at a high level, but I played man and thought man. That the man took me to the ball. Not everybody plays the game like that. A lot of guys play the game. All they see is ball. They hunt ball. They seek ball. That's it.
Yeah.
And I played with a lot of guys like that. I think you got more guys on the defense like that right now.
No,
and those are the splash players.
And you got to look at if they do what we've been talking about all week about getting your hands up on the D line on those quick routes and those quick releases, deflected passes. Another great place for turnovers. If you can get some deflected passes, the ball flies up in the air and just hangs up there. Who wants it?
You got one in the spring game, right? Yeah. Alfred Collins took one to the house, didn't
he? Right off the top, right in front,
right off. First drive of the game. That's the guy that's going to do. I mean, if anybody is big enough, massive enough to clog up a passing lane and against a quick game offense, it would be that dude. So I don't know if he's going to be able to get there, but I know he can bull rush. And once you bull rush, hey man, get your hands up. That's a hard passing window to get through. When what is he 6'5", long arms and wingspan. So all those that recruiting that you've done and those data points you've been recruiting and evaluating of guys' wingspan and their arm length and stuff. This is actually a game where I think it pays huge dividends. Because your DNs, you got some DNs like that. You got a lot of your interior D linemen have that type of mass and wingspan. If you can't get home for Nicolosi, get your hands up, deflect the pass, like Patrick said. Get your hands on him. That makes a big boy touchdown. Hey, like we did in the spring game. We talking about these folks texting in that it may be a defensive player scored the first touchdown. Spring game.
Game. You're right. You're right.
Spring game. Deflected it and big boy touchdown. So we'll see. But that's a good point. I got two. That's a good question. Nicolosi, his maturity is going to be a bit. I don't know how mature he is. Last year he was immature, but everybody expected it. He was a first-year starting quarterback. This year, you get a more mature version of him. So we'll see. All right, good question there for a topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We come back. We got some NFL to discuss. I told you guys this Jamar Chase story was going to come to a point of critical mass. I kept trying to tell y'all, even though he's 2 years away from signing his deal, great wide receivers do not like to see other wide receivers get paid a lot of money while they are making whatever the minimum is. It don't happen that way, all right? He's looking at his peers going, hey, I'm better than that guy. I'm just as good as that guy. Honestly, I think I'm better than that guy. I want to be paid like it. So we'll give you the latest development. And I think CeeDee Lamb's contract being done also adds a little bit more pressure to this. Yeah. But we'll give you the latest in the Jamar Chase contract hold in. It is the most aggressive hold in we've ever had, though, in the NFL. I think the hold in is it's supposed to be a very amicable way of negotiating a contract. This is an aggressive hold in. We'll talk about his strategy. We'll hear from the head coach. Also, the 49ers are also getting frustrated with their negotiation with their top receiver, Brandon Ayuk. So we'll hear from John Lynch. And oh man, looks like the fit may be about to hit the shan when it comes to these negotiations. We'll get into that. Also, we'll talk about the transfer portal quarterback market. It is officially, I think they call it's jump the shark. Maybe that's the term you use for it at this point, because we've never seen the quarterback transfer market like this. I'll give you the numbers when we get into Rod's rant of the day. Other NFL topics as well. I'll tell you why my great Bill Belichick take is officially dead. It's done. My all-time great Bill Belichick take. I've had it for like a decade now, and it's been a great hot take that I've used over and over again. It's done. And I'll tell you why. All of that and more will return right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Low and Rod Babers. Coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. Thanks to my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis. We appreciate him. But new theme Thursday means he comes up with a new creative theme every Thursday. And the theme for today is Saturday, right? Just Saturday.
Saturday. All the songs have Saturday in the title of the song.
We're just getting ready for Saturday. Saturday means the big time college football kickoff. We've had a little week 0 appetizer. There's football. It's college football tonight, of course, on Thursday. And you'll get a little bit leading up to Saturday. But Saturday, you get a lot of the big matchups. We'll talk about some of those coming up tomorrow, probably, and break down and preview some of those matchups. We'll get into the Aggies, actually, because they have one of the bigger matchups of week 1. The Aggies will be hosting the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And we'll talk about that a little bit coming up on the show. Let's first get into. Matter of fact, we got the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Let me not forget about that. Texas football related. Patrick, give the folks a topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day before we move on.
Top for the Big Fat Poll today: how many turnovers will Texas cause against Colorado State?
I got two. Yeah. I got a forced fumble and interception. Nicolosi throws a lot of interceptions, or at least he did last year, 16 of them. I think Texas will get their hands on at least one. Now, if they get two, then you're cooking. You're cooking with fish grease right there. Then they could end up forcing another fumble. I think they'll force a fumble and recover it, and I think at one point they'll get a pick from Nicolosi. Just not sure who in the secondary is going to get it. They're going to play a lot of guys on defense too. That'll play a role. That actually may lead to, I don't know if they'll lead to more turnovers or fewer turnovers, that they may rotate a lot of guys. Because some of the havoc-minded players that I talk about, the splash players, the ball hogs, they may not necessarily be on the field, but maybe some of the young guys are going to make those types of plays on the football. So that is the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Go check it out. It's at The Horn. We'll get it posted at The Horn ATX on the X account, and then you can vote on it yourself. All right. Before we dive into the Horn headlines, let me let you know what's coming up. We'll get into that quarterback transfer market hitting its peak. Well, maybe it's not its peak. The peak so far. We haven't seen anything like it. We'll do that, and we get into Raj round the day. Also want to talk about the wide receiver market in the NFL, which has exploded as of late, especially this offseason. You got 5 receivers now making at least $30 million. There are 2 more that are going to be added to that number, making at least $30 million per year. And that number may get to, that number's going to get to 7 pretty quickly. And then you'll have, I believe the number is 9 total non-quarterbacks in the NFL making at least $30 million. And 7 of them, guys, will be wide receivers. Let that sink in. How quickly wide receiver became the second most valuable position in football. It happened like that. I swear it was still edge rusher like a year ago. I swear it was still considered edge rusher like a year ago. Remember, you didn't have any of these wide receivers signing these big deals. It all happened this offseason. It all just happened. Prior to this offseason, there were no wide receivers that had like that 75 plus million guaranteed in their contract. Now you got 5 receivers with that type of money guaranteed in their deal. That you had 1 receiver making at least $30 million before this offseason. Now you got 5. Soon to be 7. I don't even know how you account for it. And like I said, it'd be different if wide receiver was just like quarterback and it was the rarity of the skill set and determine the value. It's not rare. They're everywhere. All great receivers are all over the place. Like there's really good ones at the low end that are old, veteran, aging wide receivers that you can get on mercenary deals. There's really good ones in the draft you can get on the cheap in the first and the second round. Hell, maybe in the third round if you want really good wide receivers. You want to invest that way. And you have obviously the market, the top of the market, the peak of it, which is your elite wide receivers who are established, proven commodities who are looking to sign and have signed their second contract in the league. But you got elite receivers in almost every bucket. I mean, Stephon Diggs on a 1-year deal with the Texans right now. 1 year. He's on a 1-year deal. Like, so he's one of those aging wide receivers. Yeah. You can get an elite aging guy that can also help you out, but you can get him, I don't say cheap, but you can get him relatively pain-free at a discounted cost. You may not be able to get them for a long period of time because they want to hit the free agent market and make their money at that point, but you can get one. And there are a lot of teams. And then there's a new market where the highly drafted receiver who has fallen from grace, and now you can get you got the redemption story, the reclamation projects, right? Kansas City's done that. They tried to do it with Kadarius Toney. We just seen what was the trade in division? Jahan Dotson. We just seen one of those, right? It's like, oh no, we'll give you a late round pick for that reclamation project. He was once a receiver that was drafted really high. The receiver market is just crazy. Supply and demand does not apply.
No, it's how crazy it got was it kind of all started with that Christian Kirk deal to the Jaguars. Remember?
Man.
That was where it started. Do you know what that deal was?
Oh,
I just had to look it up. 4 years, $72 million, 18 a year.
It's crazy.
And that was the one we all freaked out about a year ago.
Oh,
remember, it was like a year at the beginning of the offseason last year. He gets that contract. We all go, right. 18 a year for Christian Kirk.
18
and you're like, well, now Christian Kirk's worth 20.
Yeah, you're right. The Cowboys, remember, they freaked out over the $20 million a year for Amari Cooper. And I was like, man, that's a lot of money for a wide receiver. And it's like, is it? Now you're like, is it a lot of money for a wide receiver? Wow. Like I said, the best deal, honestly, of all the wide receiver deals that were done to me is that Nico Collins deal that Nick Caserio pulled off. And at the time they signed him, I think he was the seventh. He was like 6th or 7th highest paid wide receiver when they signed that deal. And I think now he's already out of the top 10. Like 2 months. He signed that deal like two months ago, something like that.
Yeah,
he was like firmly number 6 or 7, now already out of the top 10. Like that's how fast the wide receiver market is moving. It is crazy. All right, so we'll talk about it because it's about to move even more. We're about to see this wide receiver market get a couple of other big deals get done. They're going to push the market even more. Someone was saying Jamar Chase could get Justin Jefferson money, which would be crazy. LSU would have the 2 highest paid receivers in the history of the game. That would be pretty wild. So we'll get to that because we got some audio that we're going to get into there. But we'll also get into CJ Stroud. We'll talk about CJ Stroud's MVP odds, and they're getting some love. Vegas giving some love to CJ Stroud, who's MVP odds right now. Pretty high. I believe they're plus 1,000 last time I looked at them. Tied with Joe Burrow. That's one book, of course. There are different books. But we'll talk about why he's one of the favorites, at least one of the favorite bets to win MVP. And we'll get into the Aggies have Notre Dame Fighting Irish for their first game, but go look at their first 6 games, which we'll do. And tell me what you think the Aggies record is going to be after their first 6 games. Because you could be dealing with a lot of Aggie hype through the first half of the season. And that's something we'll dive into a little bit later on. But let's first get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros salvaged a game in their series with the Phillies with a dominant 10-0 win yesterday. Spencer Arrighetti carried a no-hitter into the 8th inning before leaving after pitching 7 2/3, striking out 11 in the shutout win for the Astros. Yordan Alvarez also added 3 straight home runs in the game to get the bats going before their weekend series with the Royal that starts tomorrow. And the Rangers won both games of their doubleheader over the White Sox yesterday. Marcus Semien and Corey Seager drilled in runs in the 7th in Game 1 to grab the lead in the 3-1 victory. Then in Game 2, Seager hit the go-ahead run in the 9th, and an amazing Travis Janikowski walk-off stealing catch led the Rangers to a 4-3 win in Game 2. Nathan Eovaldi takes them out for the Rangers today as they look to sweep the White Sox. And in college football, Week 1 kicks off tonight with number 11 Missouri versus Murray State, number 12 Utah versus Southern Utah, number 22 Kansas versus Lindenwood, and number 24 NC State versus West Carolina. In other action, North Carolina faces Minnesota in a battle of 2 teams hoping to surprise with new quarterbacks at the helm. And some starting quarterbacks have been named. Russell Wilson will be the starting quarterback for the Steelers going into Week 1, and just announced Jacoby Brissett will be the starting quarterback for the Patriots going into Week 1. And that is your Horn Headlines.
Wow. I guess I'm curious. Thanks, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Probably could have saved this for what the facts, what the stats. The Steelers have named Russell Wilson starting quarterback, and this was going to be the case anyway, but realize this about the Steelers: 4th different starting quarterback in the last 4 season openers.
Trying to find one.
That is brutal for the pit. So it's pretty obvious what their issue is. And by the way, Russell Wilson he was great in his day. Russell Wilson is not the answer, and neither is Justin Fields.
Nope.
That's it. That's the reality of it, guys. Neither one of those guys are going to solve the quarterback hell. I would say quarterback hell, but they still win games. So they're on quarterback hell. They're in quarterback purgatory. Because quarterback hell would mean if you're in quarterback hell, that's essentially somewhat good because you'll be bad enough to pick really high in the draft and get you a quarterback. The problem with the Steelers is Mike Tomlin is too good of a coach, so he keeps you from being in quarterback hell so that you can get a good draft pick in a draft or draft high enough in the lottery to get a good quarterback. So you're always good enough to either be contending for a playoff spot or barely make the playoffs and have a winning record. Therefore, you'll only be drafting in the middle rounds of the NFL draft at best. And because of that, all the quarterbacks will be taken off the board by then, at least all of the potential franchise quarterbacks. So this is quarterback.
That's
when
you
end
up
purgatory.
with a Kenny Pickett.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and you're going to keep doing that until they either tank, which I can't see Tomlin doing. It's just not in his nature. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's not in their organizational culture to do that. So they need to be aggressive and trade for a quarterback. Now, if a Dak Prescott comes available in free agency, I could definitely see the Pittsburgh Steelers saying, nope, we're going to go all in, baby. We're giving it all. 60 plus million, whatever it is a year that you want. But they need to try to solve their, and I'll give them credit going after Russell Wilson, going after Justin Fields. At least they're being aggressive. But those two guys are not going to solve your quarterback conundrum. Not going to happen. You got to go out and get another a better and I think a more ideal franchise quarterback, someone you project can be that. That's not Justin Fields, and that's not Russell Wilson anymore. So there you go. Random stat. We should have probably saved that for what the facts with the stats, but we got plenty of those coming up. All right, let's get into the CeeDee Lamb pressure, because CeeDee Lamb's contract just got signed this week. And I think that has now applied some pressure externally to some of these other teams who are in contract negotiations with their wide receiver ones and the wide receiver market. I can understand why these teams, it happened so fast. The wide receiver market shifted so quickly. Honestly, I can see Cowboys, not really them, but I can see why some of these other teams, they weren't prepared for it. They just didn't see it coming. Not this quickly.
Yeah.
And I think the Bengals are one of those teams, unfortunately. They just didn't see it happening this fast. And I that's why I told you guys, I said, man, I know he's 2 years away from signing a new deal, but Jamar Chase, there's no way he's going to watch all these wide receivers get $30-some million when a lot of people consider him to be, among the top 3 best wide receivers in the game and not want to get paid. So at first, he was doing the nice thing. He was holding in, and he wasn't, I don't think, being very boisterous or very demonstrative, and he wasn't complaining to the media. Matter of fact, I still don't think Jamar Chase has spoken to the media really about his contract situation. He's got 2 years left on his deal. But he had been, I think, somewhat amicable in his approach. It was a hold in, and he was still representing Bengals and wearing gear and that kind of stuff. Wasn't, I don't think, practicing like he wasn't a full go at practice, but I still think he was doing some of the stuff with the guys. Well, recently, this comes from Kelsey Conway, who covers the Cincinnati Bengals. And we have some sound from Zach Taylor, the head coach, that we'll get to here in a second. Please, Patrick, if you wouldn't mind pulling that up. But Jamar Chase, he got to practice 13 minutes late, according to her, because everybody was waiting at practice, like, where's Jamar Chase? And he's not here, he's not around. He got to practice 13 minutes late in street clothes. Oh, that was it. Oh, the street clothes. Yeah. So yesterday he decided, nope, not practicing. I'm going to hold in. I'll still be here with my team. But he was not wearing the gear. He was not going out to practice at all. So now the hold in gets a little bit more contentious because he's wearing street clothes out there. And remember, Brandon Ayuk was doing that too a little bit. And then Brandon Ayuk started wearing 49ers gear. So the hold in is not as it used to be, kind of like I said, a very kind of amicable and I think a conscientious way to negotiate. This is just straight up passive aggressive. It's like, hey man, I'll be here, but I'm not enjoying being here right now because y'all not paying me what I'm worth. That's what it says to me. And here is Zach Taylor. We have this audio from Zach Taylor, because Zach Taylor, prior to this practice where he arrived 13 minutes late, street clothes, he was telling the media there's no issue with Jamar Chase. There's no issue at all. He's here with the team, and he's actually been working out with the team. And he said basically, he was telling people, I'm paraphrasing, that he did not see a contract dispute where it was going to roll over into the season and affect game time and affect Jamar Chase's ability to be available to the team. He has changed his tune a little bit after the street clothes affair. Here is Zach Taylor.
Something changed between yesterday when you said that you expected Jamar to practice and today him not showing up.
I said that yesterday. I think every day is a new day. We'll keep working through it. Not going to make predictions on what tomorrow brings. At the end of the day, Jamar's a great dude that means a lot to this team, and we'll just continue taking it.
When does this become a distraction?
It's not. I mean, it's a one-off situation that you got to deal with, and again, we'll just continue to take it day to day.
You still expect me to play in the open?
This is all part of that plan that we've talked about, so this is just the later stages of that plan. But I think it's wise for me just to say we're going to take it day to day and see what tomorrow brings.
As part of the plan, Zach, did you build in your own mind the fact that this could happen? Things could change. He could maybe not practice.
I think you learn enough to not let anything catch you off guard, and it's just, again, the smartest thing for us to do is just keep working through it, keep taking it day to day. Again, he's a huge member of our team, and appreciate him and look forward to getting him back hopefully at some point soon.
There you go. So he's going from, he's going to practice with us, he'll participate, to I'm just going to take it day to day. I have no idea what's going to happen is what he's saying. Because now it's up to management, it's up to ownership. How badly do they want to sign him? You still got 2 years left on his deal. He is making it known that he is not happy with his contract situation. We all assumed also another wide receiver one negotiation, Brandon Ayuk with the 49ers. We assumed that one was going to get done sooner rather than later. There was more progress in that deal than this apparently in the CeeDee Lamb negotiation. But of course, the CeeDee Lamb deal got done early this week. And now it seems like there is, there seems to be now some tension between the 49ers camp and Brandon Ayuk's camp. Not sure why. John Lynch was asked about the contract status and the contract negotiations ongoing right now between the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk, and he seemed visibly frustrated. Here's John Lynch.
Was it communicated to Brandon's camp at any point, say in the last 2 weeks, that he would be expected to practice starting?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into our communication again, but there's at some point you got to play.
Some point you got to play. Which at this point, he didn't seem like he was optimistic that things were moving along as well as he would have liked. And my man Kyle Shanahan said about the Brandon Ayuk negotiation. And by the way, don't forget Trent Williams. We brought this up yesterday. Trent Williams says he is not reporting and he is not showing up at the 49ers facility until he gets a new deal. And I would argue he is the most valuable non-quarterback. You can argue he's the most valuable non-quarterback in the league. Shano says, I'm optimistic that things will work out with Trent. I'm not sitting here knowing what day it will be. I mean, we're getting close to playing a game. So, my mind is completely on preparing for a game without those guys. But I feel when two sides want to get a deal done, usually it happens. So he said he's preparing right now for a game without Ayuk and without Trent Williams.
You have to, don't you?
Yeah, you have to. But that lets you know that they're not necessarily close to a deal then, because he's already thinking, all right, I may not have these guys. They won't be available to me. Why would I go into?
And you're thinking too, you go, well, I'm preparing. And then if I get those guys back on Thursday, are they playing Sunday?
No. You didn't practice. You don't even know the game plan.
Yeah. So, if we're on Thursday of this week, you're pretty much already too far in to have a game plan, be ready to go. And now you could probably put Trent Williams back in there.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And let him go. But I don't know, Ayuk, you're probably, and there's a certain part of you too with Ayuk where you're like, screw you, and kind of want to make you sit out a game now. I don't like this.
And then it's the injury thing. I don't know how much they've been working out, but football shape and being in shape are different things. Yeah. So honestly, to safeguard against injury, I'm with you. I still don't think they'll play. I think I'd sit them out because I would want them to have kind of built up that tolerance, of training camp and knowing that they're not going to go in there first real action of physicality, and they haven't had that in training camp, and then they get hurt. So I don't know if they'd play anyway. I think you're right. I think even if they do get signed, you might just keep them out of the first game. I haven't looked up who San Francisco plays in the first matchup right now. But see, in Trent Williams, like I said, guys, I gave you the stats yesterday. Brock Purdy with Trent Williams, last year, 28 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Without Trent Williams, 3 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Sack rate goes from 5.1 with Trent Williams to 6.1 without him. Interception rate goes from 1.7% interception rate for Brock Purdy with Trent Williams on the field. It's 5.2% interception rate without Trent Williams. His touchdown rate goes from 6.7% to 2.6% without Trent Williams. And the pressure rate, of course, it rises to from 39% with Trent Williams on the field to almost 45% without him on the field. He's a difference maker no matter what you're looking at. And in the run game, they run behind him more than they run behind any offensive lineman. And no surprise, they have more success running behind him than they do running behind most offensive linemen. Their success rate is close to 52% running behind him, 47% when they run to the right. I'm telling you, he's right now arguably the MVP of that squad. They got to get him. He's more important than signing Brandon Ayuk. Now, you ain't got to sign him to a long-term deal. Ayuk's going to be a longer-term deal. I think Trent Williams just wants a bag real quick. He's kind of like Zach Martin. He's like, man, I'm a Hall of Famer. Just give me a bag of money, guaranteed money real quick, and I will shut up for now. Like,
Trent Williams is 36, so he's
old. Yeah, exactly.
He's getting up there. They open their season with the Jets on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, you can beat the Jets.
I mean, but you've got that defense got sauce on it.
That defense is legit, though. No, that's a good point. Defense is legit.
I mean, offensively, your defense should be able to slow them down, but you got to be able to score against them.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's actually that's no easy task. That defense that's the real deal. All right, so there you go. That's I think some pressure now being applied to those teams in terms of their negotiation with their wide receiver ones. I think that happened because of CeeDee Lamb signing that big deal, and now they want to expedite things. And there's for Jamar Chase, he's the only one that he may be able to get Justin Jefferson money. Just say heads up, it's possible. Now the Bengals are notoriously pretty cheap. They're the only franchise that has an owner who's not on paper worth $1 billion+. He's still just a 100 millionaire, multi-millionaire. And I think he's worth like 800, 900 million. So he's right there on the cusp. But I mean, it makes a difference because we talk about guaranteed money when you're talking about signing bonus or at the signing, whatever one, whether you're talking, all the different, I think now, I think the different negotiating points of leverage for the players is how much guaranteed money they can get in these deals. And sometimes owners are reluctant to do that because that's about liquid cash. All right, there you go. So that's some NFL update on the wide receiver market. We're going to get you an update on the quarterback transfer market. I got some interesting, compelling numbers about the quarterback transfer market that we'll dive into. But first, let me throw this out there for Longhorn fans to consider, because the Aggies have a big game coming up this weekend, huge game, and we'll preview the Aggies matchup with Notre Dame tomorrow. We'll dive into that a little bit. But I saw some people kind of bickering about this on Twitter, and then I looked at the Aggies' first 6 games of the season and thought, man, maybe this is not out of the realm. So the Aggies start off with Notre Dame. They're favored versus Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken. Last time I looked, they were favored. I believe they were favored by 3. That number is, moved a little bit, but they've been favored for the most part all off season versus Notre Dame. So let's say they beat Notre Dame. And right now I feel good about A&M in that game versus Notre Dame, but who knows how the offense is going to look. We just don't know that much about the offense. I know Connor Wigman's a stud. It could be, but he's got to stay healthy. The offensive line's got to be able to pass protect in order for him to stay healthy. He's started 8 games, but has got injured last year after 4 starts. And you got a new offensive coordinator in Colin Klein. So the offense is going to look different. He usually prefers a quarterback that can move and run. And that's not Connor Wigman, really. I mean, he can do it, but that's not ideal. You don't want him running. So I wonder how he's going to tailor the offense and tweak the offense for that. And the wide receiving core for the Aggies, I think, is actually underrated. I think the wide receiving core is underrated. But offensively, we just don't know how they're going to look. Defensively, the Aggies are going to be tough. I mean, I think Nick Scourton, you don't know the name now. You should. Nick Scourton is going to be one of the best defensive players in the SEC. He had 10 sacks in the Big Ten, led the Big Ten. He was at Purdue and transferred, led the Big Ten. 50 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 21% pass rush win rate, which is 9th among FBS edge defenders, 25 run stops, 3rd most in the Power 5. Doesn't matter. Great run stopper. Guy's going to play on Sundays, probably be a first-round draft pick. 19-year-old team captain. So he's one of them. 6'4", 280. Like I said, I think he'll be an all SEC defender. And then they got Shamar Turner on the D-line, also a stud, had 6 sacks. Mike Elko says D-line is the identity of the team. Like, it's the best group on the team, period. And I agree with him mostly because of those guys. So defense will lead the way for him. I also like Torian York, the linebacker. He's a really good player on defense too. They got some transfers in the secondary. They'll be counting on. I think Bryce Anderson is a really good player in that secondary at nickel. Tyreek Chappelle over the last 2 years has been pretty consistent for them. But don't mistake it. Front 7 for the Aggies is going to be really, really, I think, a really impressive group. So let's say they beat Notre Dame because they're favored versus Notre Dame. And like I said, I'll go look and see if they're still favorites. But they're at home. Let's say they win that. If they beat Notre Dame, I mean, the Aggies could go on a run. They played McNeese. Then they're at Florida. Florida's talented, but Florida's a bit of a dumpster fire because a lot of people believe that Billy Napier is on the hot seat, and we'll see how they start out. But, that's another team I think they'll be favored versus Florida. Then they got Bowling Green. Then they got Arkansas. Arkansas's got talent, but they'll be favored versus Arkansas too. And only one of these games is on the road. So first 6 games all at home, and you got one on the road. That's the at Florida one. So that could be a little challenging. Then you got to play Missouri. I think Missouri's a good team. I mean, Missouri's really good. I like the quarterback, Cook. They might have the best wide receiver, Luther Burden, in the country. And I love the passing attack. I love Eli Drinkwitz. I think he's a really good coach. So that could be a surprise loss for the Aggies. It could be. But even if they lose, I said they lose the Notre Dame game and they lose the Missouri game, still starting out 4-2. I think the Aggies are going to start out 5-1. And they could start out 6-0, but I'm not going to pump the Aggies up too much. But I think they're going to start out 5-1, and that one loss is going to either be to Notre Dame or to Missouri. And like I said, I'll have to look and see how good the Missouri defense is, and we'll have to see how good that Aggie offense is. But don't be surprised if midway through the season there's a lot of Aggie hype because they're 5-1. And I just kind of broke down how it could happen. They're favored versus all of these teams, actually. They're favored versus Notre Dame, favored versus Florida, favored versus Arkansas, and favored versus Missouri in their first 6 games. McNeese, of course, we assume they're going to make quick work of them. So the spectrum of outcome potentially for the Aggies is all over the place. I can see the Aggies being a 9-win team. By the time Texas plays them, I can see them being a team that barely makes a bowl game by the time Texas plays them. I really can see both happening. And it's all about how healthy Connor Wigman is, and if the offensive line comes together. I know Colin Klein and his play calling. It really is a lot of it. It depends, in my opinion, on the offense. But if Connor Wigman is good, if he's healthy, guys, they're projecting him to me. Remember, Matt Miller had him as a first-round pick. They're projecting him to be really good. If you extrapolate the 8 games that he started, I went and looked at this. The last 2 years, every other A&M quarterback, not named Connor Wigman, if you go look at their record, 7-10, 52 QBR, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 6 yards per drop back. Connor Wigman, 5-3, 74 QBR, 16 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 7.2 yards per drop back. Very different squad when he's healthy, when he can play. And before the injury last year, top 5 by Pro Football Focus in overall grade, 91.9, and passing grade, 90.9. The stats and metrics really loved him. He produced numbers in the 90th percentile in multiple predictive metrics, 96th percentile in clean pocket grade, 97th percentile, which was 92, 97th percentile in standard drop back grade, 94th percentile in early down pass rate, first and second, 91.2, 97th percentile in non-play action pass, 94th percentile on throws at or beyond the sticks, 98th percentile in avoiding negative plays. He's 88th percentile in sack rate, getting rid of the football, 2.7 seconds. I mean, you're at 97th percentile versus pressure. No matter what metric you looked at, he was really, really good for the Aggies. And if he stays healthy, that could change the entire landscape for the Aggies' upcoming season. So, and that, like I said, the wide receivers underrated. Ja'Day Walker, Noah, I think it's Noah Thomas, and Jabri Jabre Barber, I believe is the other wide receivers. Those are the guys to watch. If they step up with that offense, Colin Klein and Connor Wiggins stays healthy, the Aggies might be looking at a 5-1 record to start the season. That would be pretty wild because that would be a lot of hype heading into the second half of the season and more hype for that Texas Tech A&M game. Already the highest average ticket right now, college football ticket in the country is that Texas A&M game. Imagine if the Aggies are actually good. That'll be a game changer. We come back. We'll get into the quarterback transfer market. I'll give you some numbers that will blow your mind and tell you and explain how we're at the peak of the quarterback transfer market in college football. We've never seen anything like this. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. I want to talk about the transfer market, specifically for quarterbacks in college football. How about these numbers? And they're just startling. If you look at the 68 power conferences, all right, 68 power conference teams, I should say, in all, 43 transfer quarterbacks are projected to start among the 68 power conference teams. 63% clip. And remember, for years, I've been echoing the stat that for blue chip quarterbacks, the transfer rate is 60+%. It has been hovering there, honestly, probably for the last 5 to 6 years. the transfer rate for a blue chip quarterback. You get a 4 or 5-star quarterback, it's about a 60% chance as soon as they step on campus that they're going to transfer. That's just the reality of it. So you got to recruit as many quarterbacks as you can, stockpile that room. By the way, that's a good problem to have if your quarterbacks are leaving to go elsewhere. Look at Texas. You got Malik Murphy starting at Duke. You got Hudson Card starting at Purdue. These are guys that were in your program and decided, they wanted an opportunity to play and help you stabilize the quarterback position and played at your school, but then went elsewhere and were able to start. This is actually a problem every school wants. It's the same. The P, I always compare it to the P Diddy song, "More Money, More Problems." Everybody wants those problems that come with more money. You got to pay higher taxes, and then you got all these other issues. There's a lot of problems when you get a lot of money. I get it. We all want those problems, right? And there's a lot of problems when you start stockpiling and recruiting elite blue chip quarterbacks. We all want those problems associated with it. It's like, oh, you know what? A dime piece. You get a smoking hot chick, a smoking hot babe, and the belief is she's really high maintenance. Like, of course she's high maintenance. I think we're willing to deal with the high maintenance, right? It's all good. It's like the crazy to hot ratio. She can be as crazy as she is hot, but she can't be crazier than she is hot, right? That's the whole thing. So you're willing to deal with all the amount of crazy as long as she's just as hot as she is crazy. You'll deal with the negative and the downside of it. So that's part of stockpiling your room with quarterbacks. It happened to Sark. It happened to Mac Brown. That's a good problem to have. It's a healthy organizational problem, if you will. Like it's like good cholesterol. All right, like it really is like it's a good problem you should have. And Texas, I think, is doing a great job of that, and we see it in Sark. Sark has right now built the most stable and the most talented quarterback room in the country. But you're not going to keep all of them. Trey Owens, I'll make the prediction right now. Trey Owens is probably going to transfer at one point. He's going to help you stabilize the position. He's going to learn a lot from Sark. But just like Malik Murphy, just like a Hudson Card, probably going to transfer at one point. Just because he's going to want a path to play, and he can play. He's really good. I told you guys before the spring game, I said, man, y'all going to be really impressed with this kid, Trey Owens. What happened? Y'all was really impressed with that kid, Trey Owens. And I think he'll say here, he'll learn what he needs to learn, help you stabilize the position, but he's going to go somewhere where he has a path to play. And that's ultimately what you get with these quarterbacks. And like I said, that's something for Texas. You want to have that issue. But that number, guys, 68 power conference teams, 43 of them, all right, we'll have a transfer quarterback projected to start for those teams. And if you go look at, now we're talking about championship contenders too. I mean, Oregon and Notre Dame and Ohio State are considered some of the best teams in the country, expect to contend for a championship, and they're going to do it with transfer quarterbacks. And that's now considered a common thing. That's like back in the day when that was uncommon and that was shocking to see a transfer quarterback lead a team to a championship. We've seen it multiple times already now. And how about this? This is why you're getting so many quarterbacks who are looking for greener, straight cash, homie, pastures, and are looking for a path to play. Basically now the quarterback value via the transfer portal is hit an all-time high too. This is a quote from Jason Belzer, CEO and co-founder of SNIL, Student Athlete NIL, or an organization that manages different collectives across the country. The average NIL cost of a transfer quarterback, according to his research, this past year, $350,000, 350 G's, just for the average for an the NIL cost of a transfer quarterback with 350 G's. He said fewer than 10 quarterbacks cracked the $1 million mark. I bet that was Quinn. I bet he's one of them. I mean, he's one of them, right? I mean, come on. Hell, Arch probably would be there too if Arch would take NIL opportunities, but he doesn't. We know that he's been reluctant to do that until he becomes a starter. He took some, but not very many. So Texas probably would have 2 right now on the same roster, which would be crazy. But he'll be one of those guys too when Quinn leaves. He'll be one of those $1 million quarterbacks in the NIL game. Belzer says quarterback is the most valued of any position in the NIL world. And how about this? 6 of the 43 projected starters actually have been starters at multiple power conferences. That's what you're getting too. Like it used to be, I don't have a path to play. That's why I'm leaving. Now you're getting starting quarterbacks that are leaving. This is the money part. It used to be, I need to play. That's why I'm leaving. Malik Murphy's like, I don't want to leave Texas, man, but I got to go somewhere where I can play. I got to go. It's only one starting quarterback position, one football, and I want to be that guy. So he went to Duke, right? Hudson Card, same thing, right? And it used to be the common theme. Now You got guys that have starting jobs. Like Dylan Gabriel's like, no, I'm starting at Oklahoma, but nah, I want to go over here. I'll go to another place. You have multiple guys who have been starting at one place that decide to leave. Now, that is relatively new, where they already had a starting job locked up and they want to go somewhere to another school where they believe either now sometimes it can be a coaching change that spurred it too, but they can go somewhere and because they believe they have a better opportunity, better offense, bigger stage. And like I said, we haven't seen much of that. That's something that's come along in the last 3 to 4 years. But out of the 43 starting quarterbacks, transfer starting quarterbacks in these 68 power conference programs, 30 will be the 30 of them will be the first year at their new school. 8 of them will be on at least their third school. Like I said, 6 of those guys were actually playing at that other school. 4.7 is the average years in college for the transfer quarterback right now. Of those, the average starting quarterback, the average transfer quarterback that's starting right now has spent 4.7 years in college. So they are 23, 24, 25 years old. You know what I mean? 26. They're veteran quarterbacks now. And if you're a coach, bringing in a quarterback, that's another added bonus. I get maturity at this quarterback position. I got a guy who's been there and done that. That helps. Coaches are looking for that. So that's something to consider too. The guy here, Jason Belzer, the CEO of SNIL, Student Athlete NIL organization, Jason Belzer, he says that the highest NIL deal for a quarterback that he saw was $1.2 million. So he says a lot of the reports of these guys getting these, multi-million-dollar deals is a little bit overblown. But he says $1 million+ that's probably the top of the quarterback market. But remember, it was John Talty of 247 Sports. They did their own research about and basically their own survey, if you will, of collectives and agents and representatives and student athletes themselves. And they found that via the transfer portal, they have the quarterback market anywhere from $500,000 to $800,000. Like that's the range that they came up with. And our good friends at Open Doors, who also are a really good organization from the jump, is he's from the inception of NIL. They have been tracking NIL transactions around the country from collectives and agents and from student athletes as well. And based on their research, they said Open Doors found that the starting quarterback for a top 25 team is expected to earn $821,000 and change in 2024, up from $648,000 last year. So in 2023, they said a starting quarterback for a top 25 team was expected to earn $648,000. And the firm anticipates that the salary for a top 25 starting quarterback is going to grow by 2025 to $990,000. And I believe ultimately they say in 2026, it'll top $1.3 million for a top 25 starting quarterback. Dang. It's a lot of straight cash, homie. So yeah, the quarterback transfer market is at its peak. Maybe it's jumped the shark to a certain extent. We'll see when the new framework, the financial framework of college football, when that is revealed and there's revenue sharing, maybe that changes a little bit. I don't see it. I think the quarterback position in the NFL has taken, this route. And I think the quarterback position in college is going to take a similar route to quarterback position in the NFL, where it's far and away monetarily the most valued and invested in position. And then after that, everything else kind of the other premium positions fall into place.
Yeah. And we know in college football, there's always a certain extent of what's new, what's shiny, what's new. Yeah, and for the donors and boosters who are paying for this right now, for those guys, if they see a quarterback and they go, well, I know you got this one guy, but he threw 15 picks last year. To get rid of him, get a new guy. We'll pay for him. And you go, well, but this, like, who we're going to get is also going to throw 15 picks. I don't care. Don't care. Yeah, that guy, you're like, that guy led us to a 10-win season. We think he's going to get better next year. Nope. Unless he wins us a national championship, he is not a good enough quarterback for my school. And that is the thought process of several, especially people that have the money to do it. They'll say, go out and get me somebody new. Here's $1 million. Go get me a better quarterback.
They're willing to pay for it. What do you do? Like, all right, you're willing to pay for it. I mean,
yeah.
Because as a coach, it helps you. You need them to be investing in NIL. You need them heavily invested in NIL. And you need a reputation that guys come to your school and they flourish and they get NIL opportunities and they can achieve their dreams. So, yeah, it's hard. It's tough. That's development. I think that's that's definitely been forsaken, and that has been sacrificed for, like you said, the shiny new,
Yeah.
the shiny new QB. And I don't know if we're ever going to go back at this point. I think, especially with quarterback, I think a lot of coaches are saying, listen, I need to turn around the program because I don't have job security until I start winning games. And the quickest way for me to do that is to find me a really good high-level quarterback right now. And then I can get a kind of a jump start in my rebuild here. And that's what you're seeing. It helped for Texas too. Look at Texas.
Yeah.
They were dealing with quarterback issues. Sark came in and was like, nah, we good. Let's bring in, that's a transfer, bring in Quinn. And now you've got to stabilize that quarterback position. All right, we come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats on the other side. Got some from the college realm, got some from the NFL. We got lots of them for you right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Low Horn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some what the facts, what the stats right here on the show. How about this one? Here's a what the facts, what the stats for you. If you're looking at teams or at least quarterbacks who avoid third downs, right? The late great Bill Walsh always said the best third down offense and the best third down play call is the one that you don't have to call. Right? It's the one you don't have to even throw out there. You don't even need it because you never reach third down. The lowest percentage of total plays that come on third down in the past 10 years, no shock. Patrick freaking Mahomes. 23.3% of his total plays are third downs. Dude, don't see third down. Now, here's a trend, though. So how about this? Second, Kyler freaking Murray. Only 24% of his plays have come on third down in the past 10 years. So this goes back 10 years, even though he ain't been in the league 10 years. Lamar Jackson, he's at 24.3%. And Jalen Hurts is at 24.5%. What do they all have in common? They all can run. Remember, we told you Patrick Mahomes can run. He just doesn't do it until he has to. It's the playoffs. He wasted everything's on the line. He's like, all right, I'll risk it all. And I'll run when I need to. But in a regular season, Patrick Mahomes, he could run. He's like, nah, I'm good. I'll just go down or I'll throw it away. So that's if you want to look for a commonality between all these quarterbacks who have the lowest percentage of total plays that come on third down in the past 10 years, running quarterbacks. They can move. And so maybe it's something about, I don't know what, I guess it would be they end up in second and longs. And then maybe they're to convert on second down. Like I don't really even know exactly how these all would tie together and connect. But that is interesting that it's just dual threat quarterbacks and mobile quarterbacks that are listed there as the top 4 quarterbacks that avoid third downs. Let's talk about, we just talked about the Steelers, who are going to start their 4th different starting quarterback in as many season openers. So 4 straight different quarterbacks in 4 straight season openers for the Steelers post Ben Roethlisberger, still trying to figure it out. But this stat just shows you what a hell of a coach Mike Tomlin is. Teams with the highest one score game winning percentage since 2020, the Steelers. So in that time span where they've been in quarterback purgatory, they've had the best win percentage in one score games in the league. In quarterback purgatory. Like, how is that in the toughest division in the league, by the way?
Yeah.
In the same division with Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, with the Browns, who are just loaded, dysfunctional, but loaded with talent. And this dude's in quarterback purgatory, got the worst quarterback situation in that division, and has won 73% of his one-score games. You know who's second? The Chiefs, 68%. That's the gap. Get that man a quarterback, please. What the hell y'all doing? This dude can coach his butt off. He's doing that with Kenny freaking Pickett. And now he's going to do it with Russell Wilson and whatever Justin Fields brings to the table. Isn't that amazing? Patrick, is that not amazing?
No, it is. It's that, it's like the fact that they had the winning record in their division last year, the best record in their division.
Like,
that's a stacked division. And that they could win in that division. I don't get how he pulls that off with that team. And you can look and you say there's good defensive players on that team. I mean, they have TJ Watt. They got some really good defensive. But it's not like that defense is the most stacked defense that he's had. He's had better defenses.
Crazy.
He just gets them. He gets him ready to play in the fourth quarter. He gets him ready to play in big moments. And he has him believing enough to go into it. It's the guy clearly knows what he's doing. But they just cannot figure out the quarterback position, and I think that's why we've seen a slight shift in their methods. That it feels like they're willing to take swings right now.
Yeah,
and that was a franchise that never really took swings, but they're apparently there's still an offer on the table for Ayuk. That they're still talking to him. That I'm sure they would be listening to any quarterback if Dak became available in free agency. I'm sure they would be willing to pick up the phone on that one. It would be interesting to see if they get into the draft, if they're willing to leverage their future to go trade up and get a guy, because, that's the only way you're really going to. And, unfortunately now, as quarterbacks are so valuable that, when you saw Patrick Mahomes, that he falls a little bit and then you can trade up for him because he's out of the top 10 and you can still go get a guy that you feel is really good. Or you got Deshaun Watson falls all the way down to where the Texans can get him. So there has been those guys. And I feel like the Steelers were under the mindset that one year they're like, well, one of these guys will fall to us.
Yeah.
And they just don't.
Yeah, that's not the
And
trend anymore. Now you're overdrafting those guys. Those guys that used to
yes.
fall to the middle of the first. Now you're like, no, I'll draft them in the top 10.
And I
It's
know you
like,
don't want to
really?
overdraft, but you have to get somebody because you waited and got Kenny Pickett, and as much as you were hoping that was going to work, that was a long shot anyway.
Yeah, no, you drafted that. Now they're overdrafting old quarterbacks to sit. That's how much the quarterback position is worth. You have a guy like Michael Penix in the top 10, and he's old and got an injury history just to sit down. Like that's how valuable the quarterback position is now. So yeah, that Kenny Pickett try, or at least that Kenny Pickett experiment, that's the reason it failed, because if a guy's good enough, or at least even projects to be good enough, he won't fall out of the top 10. Not anymore.
No.
That Patrick Mahomes story, that won't happen again.
No. Deshaun Watson falling all the way to the end of the first round.
Yeah, that's great. Lamar Jackson falling
all that way.
Like those stories won't happen anymore. Like,
and
right,
the dual threat quarterback being scary is going away too.
Yes,
like Jaden Daniels is a perfect example of that.
Yes,
where they're not looking at it and going, well, he's just a runner. Like, cool. Great. Fantastic.
I've been waiting on one of these guys. Thank you. This is awesome. Good. Yeah, you're right. Those days are done too. And you're right. That's helped. Like guys like Anthony Richardson and stuff like that. That helped them.
Yeah.
Usually that guy would have fallen in the draft, but no, those days are done. Patrick Mahomes was number 10. So he did fall to double digits, but like I said, he was right there in the top 10. I think those days are done. We're just taking more risks on quarterbacks. We're seeing more upside, and we don't even recognize the downside of quarterbacks anymore. Yeah. It's like, no, tail with the downside. All right, let's get stuff there. Let's get to the break. That's your What the Facts, What the Stats. We come back. We'll get into the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. That is Texas football related. We'll also jump into the final 53-man rosters and the practice squads. Talk about what the Longhorn representation in the NFL now tells us about the current roster construction here at Texas. We'll dive into that too. There's a bad omen for Texas football that I am hoping to change with word of mouth, with the tail wagging the dog. It is still there, so we haven't yet done our job. We'll discuss that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the idealionaire Patrick Davis, comes up, who comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. But especially on a new theme Thursday, he comes up with a really new, cool, creative theme, sometimes inspired by pop culture, inspired by anniversaries, other things happening around him. And because the college football season officially kicking off on Saturday, all the big games, including the Longhorns kicking off their season, all the songs are devoted to Saturday. So that is the new theme for New Theme Thursday. Everybody focused on the Saturday kickoff. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I hear that the temperatures are going to be somewhat, I don't know, cooler. I don't know what to say.
It's supposed to be cooler.
Moderate.
It may be humid.
Cooler. It's not going to be upper 90s. Lower 90s is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Rod, you and I, sweaters, maybe.
Yes.
We may be a little sweaty.
That's all right. Long as, once I start, I can't stop. But as long as I don't have the extreme heat, also, it's probably be muggy out there because I hear it's supposed to rain too. So it might be.
So the rain now, the percentage is going down. It's gone down, so it's in the 20s now as opposed to 50s, what it was in yesterday. But it's still the highs in the low 90s. Mm-hmm. So that I'll take the low 90s well over the high 100s.
Seriously, no, that's pleasant. You talking about low 90s in Texas? That's pleasant in the summertime, considering what we're usually dealing with. So that will be good. But we're excited about the Longhorns kicking off against Colorado State. We're talking a lot about that. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment and dive into that matchup. Speaking of that matchup, the topic for the big fat poll of the day related to Texas football. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day. How many turnovers will Texas cause against Colorado State? I gave you 4 options there on the poll: 0, 1, 2, and 3 plus. Right now, 2 is winning with 70% of the votes.
That's kind of what I figured.
2 is where the safe money is. Tied at second with 14% is 1 and 3. And then there's a vote for 0. Some Colorado State person got on there. A hater got on, said no turnovers caused. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Take care of the football. Yeah. Do you know Nicolosi? I mean, it's he's pretty turnover prone last year. I like him as a quarterback, actually. He's a bit of a gunslinger, but he'll throw you a couple. He'll take some chances. So I think you get one pick, one forced fumble. I've been hearing a lot about strip sacks and guys getting physical, knocking the ball out. So I'll go 1 forced fumble and fumble recovery and 1 interception for Texas. Yeah. 2's the number.
2 is the number there.
Yeah. The Longhorn fans, I said 70% of y'all believe 2 is the number. But 14% say 3 plus.
Our man Brock said Trey Moore strip sack is going to come.
We'll talk about, you know what? If he does, it's going to be interesting. He's gonna do it either with elite BGO, that ball get off, and his speed rush, which is his elite pass rush move, or they're going to go with my game plan and force Nicolosi to hold on to the ball a little bit longer, so that they can get home. And that's by taking away some of the short, easy completions. Other than that, 2.6 seconds is the average time to throw. They allowed only 14 sacks last year. A lot of that was due to the system and them and getting the ball out quickly and on time and in rhythm. So if they do that, it's going to be really hard to get to Braden Fowler, Nicolosi. But if they try to throw the football downfield a little bit more, which I think they will, I've been doing some research about that too. We'll talk more about that when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. I think they'll test Texas downfield, and then Trey Moore will have a chance to really make some splash plays in the passing game. So I got 2. The players who get them, that's a whole nother discussion. I guess you say Trey Moore, don't get one of them if the texters right there, or at least the person who came and contributed their opinion via the tweet. My man Brock said, Trey Moore strip sack coming. I can see that. I can see the interception by the safeties. I think that one of the safeties is going to get a pick here. I don't know about the corner. I say the safety. I think the safety is going to be over the top of Torrey Horton. And I think and we'll see. Maybe they'll shadow Torrey Horton with a Jahdae Barron or somebody like that.
Yeah.
They've been moving Jahdae Barron around.
Over on the text line, right guy from New Mexico said he had Gavin Holmes, Andrew Makuba, both getting interceptions, and then Ethan Burke causing a fumble. So he has 3 plus.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Makuba. Yeah, exactly. Makuba could be one of those guys. For some reason, I see a safety getting a pick and not a corner. I don't know why that's the case. Could be way off there. But either way, we'll take the takeaways. They get 3 plus. That says a lot about I was talking about the havoc-minded players, and they have more ball hawks now on this defense. That's what this question is about. If you got a lot of ball hawks on that defense and they're opportunistic, this is the kind of game you're going to miss a team that's going to throw it 40 to 45 times, where you should be able to make some of those splash havoc plays. And you got different players at every level. Anthony Hill, Trey Moore, who was mentioned. I think Janae Barron and Malik Muhammad fall into that category too. So we'll see. All right, good stuff there for the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We'll get back to some Texas football conversation where we go behind the burn orange curtain, breaking down Texas versus Colorado State. We do the deepest of the deepest dive. We go deep down the rabbit hole, and I got some nice information for you, game planning wise, between Texas and Colorado State. So we'll do that. We'll also talk about NFL rosters, which have been finalized, but now the practice squads are being finalized for all these teams. So we'll talk about what Longhorns can keep the dream alive via the practice squad. And we'll discuss the 41 total Longhorns who I believe are represented on NFL rosters, and look at the positional breakdown and see what that tells us about where Texas is actually, the Texas program is in their roster construction. So we'll dive into that too coming up here in this segment. Next segment, that's all Texas, Colorado State. We do have a little off the record. We'll talk about how one of my hottest takes, been hot for a long time, even like a decade-long take, is probably gonna grow cold here this football season. I think officially I'm gonna have to put this take to rest because of something happening this football season that we've never ever seen before. And I wasn't wrong. My take was right for 10 years, but now, I evolve with the times. So I'll have to retire this take. And I love this take. It's one of my favorites. You've heard it within the last 2 months, probably, because every year it essentially applies. And I don't know if it's going to apply as well. It won't be as applicable as it once was. I'll still kind of break it out a little bit, sprinkle it in there, but it used to be the hottest of hot takes, and now I think that's going to change. So we'll talk about that too coming up. We got CJ Stroud MVP conversation. If we don't get to that, we can get to it tomorrow. It's kind of an evergreen topic, but he's getting a lot of love from the Vegas Wise guys about his potential MVP campaign. I want to dive into that if we have some time. But first, before we do any of that, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories today with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros salvaged a game in their series with the Phillies with a dominant 10-0 win yesterday. Spencer Arrighetti carried a no-hitter into the 8th inning before leaving after pitching 7 2/3, striking out 11 in the shutout win for the Astros. Yordan Alvarez also added 3 straight home runs in the game to get the bats going before their weekend series with the Royal that starts today. And the Rangers won both games of their doubleheader over the White Sox yesterday. Marcus Semien and Corey Seager drilled in runs in the 7th in Game 1 to grab the lead of the 3-1 victory. Then in Game 2, Seager hit the go-ahead run in the 9th, and an amazing Travis Janikowski walk-off stealing catch led the Rangers to a 4-3 win in Game 2. Nathan Eovaldi takes the mound for the Rangers today as they look to sweep the White Sox. And in college football, Week 1 kicks off tonight with number 11 Missouri versus Murray State, number 12 Utah versus Southern Utah, number 22 Kansas versus Lindenwood, and number 24 NC State versus West Carolina. In other action, North Carolina faces Minnesota in a battle of 2 teams, hoping to surprise with new quarterbacks at the helm. And over in the NFL, starting quarterbacks starting to be named. Russell Wilson named the starter in Pittsburgh, and just earlier this morning, Jacoby Brissett was named the starter in New England, and that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, a couple of things before we dive into the topics for this segment. The Browns, I don't know, the Browns may be up to something. Maybe, we're not sure. They restructured Deshaun Watson's deal, and they converted $44.7 million of his 2024 base salary into a signing bonus. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Cash gives you flexibility. You want to try to pay Cowboys don't do it. You want to try to pay as many of these contractually obligated financial, whether it be signing bonuses, whether you're talking about salary or you're talking about front loading or backloading these contracts, you'd like to pay as much of it in cash early on as possible because it gives you salary cap relief, gives you a bit of some salary cap flexibility. So they converted his base salary into a signing bonus that created $35 million in cap space. They now have $62 million in cap space, the most in the NFL. Now, I don't know if they're doing this so they can just, like I said, have more flexibility and then sign all their guys. I got to go look and see if they got a lot of guys that they
I know they restructured Amari Cooper, but they didn't give him long term. I'm sure they've got other guys that have contracts coming up.
Yeah, so they may have a lot of guys up and be like, no, we need the money because we got to sign, 3-4 guys. So I'm not sure. There's some conspiracy theories that they could be trying to make a move. They're already loaded.
But $63 million too. I mean, who you bring? That's quarterback money.
No, I'm with you. It could just be, hey, half of this we're gonna use to sign our own guys. Like we got some contracts that are going to be outstanding pretty soon that we want to sign, and we don't want to wait to the last minute. All right, to get this stuff done. While we have right now the opportunity to restructure Deshaun to get some more flexibility, let's do it. Or and this is people on the grassy knoll, conspiracy theory wise are saying they're about to make a big splash somehow. That they're about to trade for somebody, and some people are saying Trent Williams, and I was like, that's crazy, that's wild. So I have no idea what the hell the Browns are doing. It's the Browns, guys. All right, anything could happen. Like this the Browns. Look what they gave Deshaun Watson, a fully guaranteed contract. They could be doing anything. But I'm just letting you guys know that some funky's going on in Cleveland, and it ain't the river that smells like that. It's something that the Cleveland Browns are cooking up. So they might be up to something. We talked about that division, man. That division, there's an arms race happening in that division.
Yeah.
Period. It's been happening for a couple of years, and now the Bengals are going to be a part of it because they got to pay Jamar Chase. The Browns, you can argue they may have started this thing when they paid Deshaun Watson a deal, or maybe they were reacting to it. Lamar Jackson and gotten his money. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the one that's falling behind, but as we've talked about, they're doing very un-Steeler-like things lately because I think they're reacting to the arms race in the division too, that they cannot stand pat. They got to do something. They got to add. They must, at this point, they must upgrade, period. Quarterback starting there, but pretty much everywhere across the board. So there you go. Cleveland Browns up to something. Just don't know what it is. This is the other story that I want to get to before we dive into some of the other topics. We brought this up earlier, and I looked at to see if it's changed, and it hasn't changed. So Texas football, the Twitter account, is following right now 666 people on Twitter. I don't know why they are at this number. I don't know how long they've been at this number, but it is 666. You cannot kick off against Colorado State following 666 people. You gotta add somebody, whatever. You start following more people. We all know that what that number represents, and I think that'd be a bad omen for Texas. Kick it off against Colorado State following 666 people on Twitter. Now, we did look, and Instagram is a little different. I think they're following on Instagram 626 people. So they're not, if they get 40 in the next 48 hours, then something crazy and suspicious is going on. But everybody knows what that number means. That's a bad omen, man. Don't do it, Texas football. Don't do it. All right. Add somebody, go follow somebody. I'm sure it'll happen before then. But they kick off with 666.
If they do, I'm putting all my money on a national championship. I'm telling you that. They made that deal.
They made one of those deals with the devil.
Made one of them deals. I'm putting all
sold
their
their soul just for a national title.
Well, yeah. I mean, who depends who sold it? If it ain't mine, it doesn't necessarily bother me that much.
Yeah, who would? Okay, let's say your theory is true. Yeah. That the devil wants his props, and the devil's like, I need y'all to, at least for the people who are smart enough to figure it out, I need y'all to display my sign somewhere. Where basically that's representative of the University of Texas. They decided to do it, and they made a deal with the devil. Who made the deal? Was it Sark that made the deal? Did CDC make the deal?
You know what?
Did Jay Hartzell make the deal? Who made the deal with the devil?
Do we have a Connor Stallions guy?
It's got to be somebody close to the program because they're powerful enough to get it on the Twitter account.
We got like a Connor Stallions that's running, that's an advisor that's making deals with the devil.
I'm sure there's people like that. I mean, it could be somebody like that that's close to the program, but not necessarily, officially affiliated with the
one of the
program.
boxes?
Maybe Matthew McConaughey did. He said McConaughey could have done this. He's the minister of culture.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean,
he's selling soul for a Texas winning a national title, first year in the SEC.
I don't know. Maybe it was like somebody accidentally clicked the wrong box on the Texas One Fund.
They got a box that allows you that votes for you to sell your soul.
I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you know what? Texas, there would be a price point for Texas. They would, if any school would give you a price point on that, it'd be the University of Texas. But I don't know. Everybody knows what that number means, generation. So it's not like somebody who is in charge of Texas social media doesn't know that 666 is a sign of the devil and the Antichrist. They know that. So my point is, why let it stay that way? Just follow one more person. There's somebody affiliated with Texas you can follow. Follow Rod B. You don't follow me and make it 667. Don't let it start. Don't kick off against Colorado State with it being 66, unless, like you said, your theory holds. They made a deal with the devil, somebody, and that Texas is going to win a national title this year, but they had to sell their soul somehow.
I feel like they're going to walk into like the social media room. They're going to be like, "Who did this?" And there's just going to be one goth kid in the back. Like, not me.
Exactly. Come on. This is gonna Longhorn fans. That's Tail's got to wag the dog here. We got to make sure. I don't want that bad omen, unless Patrick is right. Now, if Patrick is right and they made a deal with the devil, I didn't make the deal because I think Texas is good enough to win a championship on their own without the help of the
This
Antichrist.
is my point, though. If you made a deal with the devil, include more sports. We're good enough in enough sports. Like we then get basketball, women's basketball, baseball, get us national titles because we're close on all of them. So get them all.
True.
It's not like we're asking for a big reach. It's not like
it's gonna cost you more. Then the devil needs more souls. You can't sell one soul for a national title. The devil. Trust me, dude. The devil's price goes up.
I didn't know the devil was holding out.
Inflation is affecting everything.
The devil's NIL deal wasn't big enough, so he's transferring, going back to Ohio State. I didn't know that.
I'm just throwing out. You agree that this should change, right? Unless you're unless you're right about your deal with the devil thing. I don't know why 666. We're following 666.
It would not surprise me if it changes today. It's only 8:30. I don't think anybody's in the office yet. So
okay. Spread the word. I know some of y'all who listen to this program work behind the burnt orange curtain. I know that is a fact. So,
and by the way, if they only get to 667, can somebody delete their account that's being followed by Texas? It'd be hilarious for me just to see.
You're right. That's a great point. Yeah, because then it would drop back down. And that's why you said, you can't unfollow people to get there because it's just if you follow somebody, then it gets there again.
Yeah.
We got to get past this number. But it's been I don't know how long it's been stuck here. Like I don't know how long we've been representing.
My guess is
666.
So they follow a lot of recruits, and so my guess is that they got a new recruit at some point, and they followed him. And now watch out for that kid because he's going to be that kid may be real good, but might bring upon win the national title and bring upon the apocalypse. But other than that,
oh man, yeah. No, I said I don't. It caught my attention. And I just wanted to bring it to y'all's attention. There you go. All right. Let's get to that was a bad omen. Let's get to some Texas. Hopefully, this is not a bad omen for the Longhorns who actually made NFL rosters, and the Longhorns who are keeping their dream alive via injured reserve, and the ones keeping their dream alive via the practice squad. By the way, I was on all three of those at one point in my very, very short NFL career. Ended up being on the practice squad, injured reserve, and a 53-man roster at one point. But shout out to my man Jeff, how he did some really good research about all the guys. And I believe the number that I have is at 41. If you include practice squad guys, injured reserve guys, and guys who made 53-man rosters. Because I saw that Keontae Ingram was the last practice squad guy I saw added, and he was on the Chiefs practice squad that I saw. I was looking at a list of teams and their practice squad players that had been listed, and they had him on the practice squad. So they made 41 that are either on practice squad, injured reserve, or on 53-man rosters. So I was looking at the positional breakdown and think to myself, okay, so what can the representation of Texas in the NFL, what can it tell us about roster construction at Texas and where they are? Because most of those guys are relatively young and they've been in the NFL. The average career in the NFL is 3.5 years. All right, you go past 4 years in the NFL, man, you've obviously you've broken through. You've exceeded the average in the league. So most of those guys left Texas in the last 4 to 5 years. And I was just looking at the makeup of the positions, and D-line is the one that stands out the most. I mean, D-line for Texas, you have 7 that made NFL rosters, and then there's one, Charles Omenihu, by the way, who is on the PUP list, physically unable to perform, and the list he's coming back. And so essentially that gives you 8. If you want to include Joseph Osai, who's technically an edge, but still plays on the line of scrimmage, then that would be 9 if you throw Joseph Osai in the mix too. You'd have Taquan Graham, Malcolm Roach, Taquan Graham with the Falcons, Malcolm Roach with the Broncos, Puna Ford with the Chargers, Moro Ojimo with the Eagles, Seattle Seahawks got Byron Murphy, Kendrick Colburn, of course, with the Titans, and Tavondre Sweat with the Titans. Joseph Osai, you include him with the Bengals. Like I say, he's an edge. If you include him as an edge, then he's the only edge you have. But I kind of threw that in there with the D lineman, and then there's Charles Omenihu on the PUP list. So D line is the most well-represented position for the Longhorns in the NFL. So that's a bit surprising, I think, and I think that number is going to continue to grow because you look at the D tackle position. I think Alfred Collins is in that conversation. Who knows if Vernon Broughton ends up being that kind of player? I think Alfred Collins is definitely an NFL player, in my opinion. And then you start throwing in the guys on the edge now. And when they develop into NFL player, I think Barron Sorrell has turned himself into a player that can play on Sundays. I think Ethan Burke's got that kind of frame and that kind of upside too. Trey Moore doesn't have the frame really, but he's got an elite trait, which is his BGO and speed rush. So he's a guy that's going to get a chance to play on Sunday. So that number for D-line is going to continue to grow for Texas. Something else I noticed, if you go look at it, DBs. The other position I think that is most represented are the DBs for Texas. You do have 5 safeties. Brandon Jones with the Broncos, PJ Locke with the Broncos. Shout out to the Broncos. Got a lot of Longhorns representing there. Brendan Schooler with the Patriots. Deshaun Elliott with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Quandre Diggs with the Tennessee Titans. You got 2 corners, Deshaun Jameson and Chris Boyd. Actually 3 if you include Ryan Watts, who is now on injured reserve, season-ending injured reserve. And then you have Caden Stearns, who made the practice squad. So in terms of safeties, you got 6 safeties, and you got 3 cornerbacks in all. That's a really, and what I noticed about this group, and that's obviously a good representation, but what I noticed about him, more importantly, is kind of and this is at the heart of the reinvention of DBU. Every time DBU is reinvented, at least in a modern era, this principle, this philosophy has been at the heart of it in its versatility, multiplicity. When I was here and Coach Akina was, basically adapting to the air raid philosophy and trying to counter the air raid, he came up with his 5-tool DB. And he said, I need 5 tool DBs. I need a DB that can cover like a corner, but I need you to be able to tackle like a safety. And he ended up, like I said, based on that principle, cross-training a lot of guys. You had Quinn Jammer, who moved from a safety to a corner. You had Ahmad Brooks, who moved from a corner to a safety. You had Nathan Vasher, who went from nickel to safety to corner. And then I was the least versatile of the group because I just played nickel and corner. And I played nickel my freshman year and corner after that. But everybody had to have the tackling ability, the kind of the sure tackling ability of a safety in the open field, and have the coverage ability, be a coverage specialist that can lock up one-on-one. And we had that across the board. And that was his evolutionary adaptation to the air raid. So the air raid was trying to find matchup advantages and mismatches in the slot. Well, our safeties could cover like corners. So you didn't have a slot matchup advantage there. And on the outside, when they try to run the bubble screens and the tunnel screens and try to put a cornerback in a situation where he's got to tackle a one-on-one, and our corners could tackle. Hell, Quinn Jammer would run through a damn blocker and run through the ball carrier at the same damn time. So that's how we matched up really well. And that's what led to, Kenny Vaccaros and your Aaron Williams and your Huff Daddies and your Quandre Diggs, those really versatile defensive backs, because that was the principle at the heart of it. And now Sark, think about he's now about versatility. That's his buzzword this offseason. When he talked about the recruiting class with the latest 5 DBs in it, in the latest recruiting class, he talked about versatility and position flex. And now they're cross-training defensive backs like Jade Barron and Makuba, because so they can manufacture depth, but also champion versatility. Versatility, that's his buzzword. And I think ultimately it's a throwback philosophy going back to Coach Akina, that you just want DBs who have that 5-tool skill set. And if you go look at the DBs in the NFL right now representing Texas, Brandon Jones played nickel and played safety. PJ Locke played nickel, played all the different safety positions. Brendan Schooler, that guy played wide receiver and played safety for you. Quandre Diggs played nickel, played corner, played safety in the league. You got really versatile. Caden Stearns is a safety. I always thought he could play nickel, but Ryan Watts is a guy in the NFL who half the teams looked at and evaluated as a safety. Half the teams evaluated him as a corner. Got a safety's frame and body with a cornerback skill set and mindset. Versatility is really the key to those guys in the NFL too. And if Sark is going to have that at the root of his developmental and evaluation of the defensive back position, the development and evaluation of defensive back position, then I think that's going to help those guys in the league. It's already helping the old school guys. And I think the last of the relics of the Coach Akina era is Quandre Diggs, but he's, like you said, he's played there's no position he can't play in the secondary. As a result of Coach Akina really developing and grooming him to be that 5-tool DB. 6 wide receivers represented in the league right now. 3 of them came in this draft class alone: A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Jay Witt. And you got Colin Johnson and Lotroy Humphrey. Those guys on practice squads, and then Devin Duvernay as well. So that you can tell that number for Sark is going to continue to increase exponentially. I wouldn't doubt in 2 or 3 years if wide receiver is the position most represented by Texas in the league, just because that is something that's close to Sark, and his offenses are so wide receiver friendly, and wide receivers want to play for Sark because he always has the quarterback room stacked, and they got the most talented quarterback room in the country. Don't you want to play with Arch Manning? Don't you want to catch passes from a Manning in a Sark system? He's going to continue to get really, really good wide receivers, and he develops them really, really well too. Only one quarterback, that's Bam Bam Sam, and only one tight end. Sark's going to change that quarterback situation pretty soon with Quinn Ewers going in there, and then Arch after him, and who knows what Malik Murphy does or Hudson Card. But 6, he'll have, of course, his own quarterbacks in the league, guys like Tua and guys like Mac Jones. But only one tight end shows you that tight end at one point an endangered species on the 40 acres for the last decade plus on the 40 acres. And that was that streak, unfortunately, of not being able to find a true, legit NFL tight end. It ended with JT Sanders, and hopefully that's the case with guys like Amari Niblack, and hopefully with Gunnar Helm, they continue to populate NFL rosters with Texas tight ends. That's about it in terms of looking at the trends. Texas did have 4 offensive linemen, I believe, that made rosters, and that will change too. You had Calvin Anderson, season-ending IR. Christian Jones was on the IR, designated to return. And then you look at the guys who made rosters. Connor Williams and Sam Cosmi were the 2 linemen. That also, like wide receiver, I expect to change exponentially over the next 3 or 4 years, adding Kelvin Banks, then every year adding 1 to 2 offensive linemen in the NFL draft. All right, there you go. We'll get back to some Texas football conversation because we're going to talk Texas, Colorado State on the other side right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Low and Rod Davis, coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas football conversation, talking Texas, Colorado State. The most compelling matchup in this Texas, Colorado State game is the Colorado State offense versus the Texas defense. I know it's the one that I have paid the most attention to and I've probably done the most breakdown on, but it is easily. And tomorrow we'll do more of Colorado State's defense versus that Texas offense, and what I expect Texas to try to do to exploit that Colorado State defense. And I think their weakness, and we talked about this, their inexperience in their front six, I think is what is going to leave them really vulnerable to Texas experience and mass and just sheer girth on the offensive line. I know Texas lost starting running back and have some depth issues at running back, but I do think they will be able to run the rock and just impose their will against Colorado State. They're undersized and inexperienced in their front. But they're experienced and very skilled in the back with their back five. Their secondary actually is the strength of the defense. We talked about that two all-conference safeties. So we'll get deeper into that matchup because I don't think it's as multi-layered as the matchup of the offense of Colorado State versus the Texas defense. So getting into it, and I've talked about how I think Colorado State's going to attack Texas. I do think they'll break tendency in some ways. And we know what kind of offense this is. This is an air raid offense, and PK's got a really nice track record versus air raid offenses. We'll get into that too a little bit next show tomorrow because I got some research that I've been working on with that. But if you go look at it, they want ultimately to get the ball out quickly. I was looking at Nicolosi's passing chart, and over 50%, damn near 51% of his passes, they come out from 0 to 9 yards. All right, they're between 0 to 9 yards. That's his sweet spot. That's his comfort area. And even his number one receiver, Torrey Horton, that's where he does most of his damage. 575 yards of his over 1,100 receiving yards come from passes under 10 yards, 0 to 9 yards. He does a great job with the ball in his hands with yak opportunities, 575 yards after the catch, 11th most in college football. He's a stud. We've talked about him. He's that dude. He could play at Texas, and he's going to play on Sundays. So that's his favorite target. He does most of his damage in the short area, 0 to 9 yards. Nicolosi, 51% of his passes in that short area. And when he gets rid of the football, all right, he's doing it in that short area. When he's throwing to 0 to 9 yards, 2.3 seconds. That's too fast for your pass rush to get there. Just not going to get home. Now, if you can't get home, get your hands up. That's what they'll say, right? Get your hands up. Should be like a party. Alfred Collins getting his hands up. We talked about Alfred Collins in the spring game, had a deflected pass off of Quinn Ewers, RPO. And RPOs is quick game plus run game. So quick game, you can't get there, get your hands up. He deflected the pass, caught it, interception to the house, big boy touchdown. That's what you're going to be hoping for, but with all of your defensive linemen. If he's going to be throwing to that short area, 0 to 9 yards, and a 2.3 average time to throw, the ball's going to be out faster than you can get there most of the time, unless you just got some freakish BGO, which Trey Moore has. Trey Moore's got a shot at that. Colin Simmons probably has a shot at that, but that takes some elite BGL. Most of the time, it'll take you at least 2.5 seconds to get in that backfield. They know that. That's why the system is built that way, to insulate them in pass protection. So here's the thing, though. So if he's going to be getting rid of the ball that quickly, you're not going to get there. Number one, you got to get your hands up. So you look for a lot of deflected passes at the line of scrimmage. That's why you got those long, rangy defensive linemen with big wingspans and long arms like Alfred Collins and like an Ethan Burke and like Baron Sorrell and Colton Vosick. That's the point. Now, Trey Moore ain't got that, but he does have the BGO. So that's how he'll have a chance to wreak havoc. But here's the thing. If the ball's coming out that quickly, and I've talked about this before, I think Texas should take away that area, flood the 0 to 9 yard area, congest it. And you do that by playing bump and run coverage. You can play, and especially if they have Torrey Horton, who's their star receiver on the outside. Remember, they have him on the outside 75% of the time. Now, we'll get into why I think they're going to break tendency against Texas. But if they do continue with that trend, they're going to have him outside, isolated by himself already 75% of the time. And he's going to be on the right side a lot of the time, too. If that's the case, you bump and run him and with a cornerback, and you put a safety over the top of him. It's just that simple. And the reason you do that is because you want to take away where he wants to do most of his damage, which is 0 to 9 yards. and he doesn't like to go deep. He was only 5 of 27 converting deep passes last year, including a drop. They don't throw it deep very well. 105th in deep ball passing grade last season, which is not really good. They were 21 of 72 converting deep passes. That's not very good. So you want to force them to beat you, all right, with their weakness, or beat you left-handed. Take away their strength. Their strength is 0 to 9 yard passing game, short, quick passing game, and their strength is Torrey Horton. Take those two things away. Flood that area, and then take Torrey Horton away with bump and run coverage, and then put a safety over the top of them just in case they decide to counter your bump and run coverage by going deep. Now, if you should be inside leverage, hard inside leverage, because they love slants, they love glances, they love inside breaking routes, really quick inside breaking routes, and your hitches and your smoke routes. So hard inside leverage, playing bump and run. And when Texas did this, by the way, because I wouldn't chart it, when they did this versus Texas Tech, which was an air raid attack, all those short, quick passes that Texas had given up, those hard inside breaking routes Texas had given up all season long, they shut them down. Tech was only 3 of 9 on inside breaking routes when Texas played them. Hell, Oklahoma State, they shut them down too. They were 3 of 9 on inside breaking routes because the last 3 games of the season, Texas played more aggressive bump and run coverage on the field and the boundary side. So that's the good news. Good news is, something you struggled with last season and the season before that, inside breaking routes. Last season, over 60% completion percentage, over 9 yards per attempt when teams threw inside breaking routes against you, over 50% conversion rate on money downs, over 20% explosive play rate. And those numbers similarly reflect 2022. You had over 9 yards per attempt, over 62% completion percentage, 40 or almost a 50% first down touchdown rate when teams threw inside breaking routes against you. All right. And if that's going to be the case, and they're going to throw inside breaking routes like they will, you can take it away like you did versus Tech and Oklahoma State. Now, here's the big but: the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size. But if you take that away, the counter is teams are going to throw it deep. Texas Tech didn't do it very well. By the way, my numbers are versus Power 5 starting quarterback. So that's why they may be a little different. But that's how I didn't, in 2023, I didn't count the backup quarterbacks they played, because that was annoying. That was diluting the sample. All right. You face real quarterbacks, Power 5 starting quarterbacks. That's a better test for the secondary. But I digress. Oklahoma State, their counter, throw it deep. And they were good. 3 of 7 on deep passes, 20 yards or more. They had a PI, they had a non-PI call. They had another guy that was open that Texas didn't cover, that the quarterback just missed. So they were able to make some plays on deeper passes. That was their counter. And then, of course, we know what Washington did. They were 6 of 8. That was the best deep ball passing team in the country. And they just ate Texas alive, even though Texas was aggressive, taking away some of those underneath routes. Now, if they're going to try to counter you just the way that Oklahoma State did and the way that Washington did, it'll be with the deep ball. You can have a safety over the top of Torrey Horton. If they try to counter the, Armani Winfield and your other DBs with that, you got to be able to trust that they can win some one-on-one. Do you trust that they can win the one-on-ones? If you don't, then you may need to change your strategy. I think you should be able to win one-on-ones versus Colorado State's other guys. If you don't, we got a bigger problem anyway. We got a much bigger problem. Right? So if we stressed out about that the other that Gavin Holmes or Malik Muhammad are getting beat by the other guys, Armani Winfield and Goffney, and not Torrey Horton, we got bigger problems, and I can throw all this stuff out the window. But I don't think that's the case. Now, I think they're going to throw it deep more than they did during last season. Why? Because I think they're going to counter Texas' scheme, and Texas was susceptible to the deep ball. Last year, Texas versus Power 5 starting quarterbacks allowed over 40% completion rate on deep balls. You had 6 opponents that were able to complete more than 50% of their deep balls. That included Washington. And then what happened in the spring game when Texas played a lot of bump and run coverage? Deep ball. 45% completion percentage on passes 20 yards or more. So they're going to do it. If they're smart, they're going to throw it deep on Texas early and throw it often. And the last 3 games of the season for Colorado State, they threw it deep 15. They threw it deep. Actually, I take it back. If you go look at it, they threw it deep 7 times versus Hawaii. They threw it deep 8 times versus Nevada. And San Diego State, they threw it deep 8 times too. So you're talking about 23 deep passes that they threw in those 3 games. That's a I think a leap in the pace and the rate of deep balls than I've seen for them during the season. So Braden followed Nicolosi. He got more comfortable throwing a deep ball, and they threw it more often. Now, if you go look at it, they were 6 of 23 on those deep balls. But my point is the frequency of them. They're willing to throw it more. They're going to do whatever it takes. They're going to throw it deep more. Here's also something to consider. I told you Torrey Horton doesn't go out in the slot. He's not in the slot very often. Probably in the slot 20% of the time last season, but he's great in the slot. His yards per route run is around 2.7 versus man, 2.8 versus zone. But when he's in the slot, he averages a 4.18 yards per route run. To put that into perspective for you, Devontae Smith set the college football, Pro Football Focus record for yards per route run to slot his Heisman Trophy winning year when Steve Sarkisian was calling the plays as the architect, and he was at Alabama, and it was one of the greatest seasons in the history of college football for a receiver. He averaged 4.96 yards per route run in the slot. And Torrey Horton's at 4.18 yards per route run in the slot. And he's only been in the slot last season 21% of the time. He's got 23 forced missed tackles. 10 of those have come from the slot, and he's only been in the slot like 20% of the time. Against Texas, I bet he's in that slot more than 50% of the time. That's a tendency breaker they got to be ready for. He's deadly there. He's lethal there. You may have to bracket him when he's in that slot. Bracket means you got one guy playing outside, inside, or one guy playing underneath and over the top. And so I think they might have to bracket him. And I would, like I said, bump and run Torrey Horton on the outside. I would not play this dude straight up. What? That's stupid. Why would you play him straight up? You don't have to. They don't have any other weapons. They only got him. Take him away. Make them beat you with some other dude. And Nicolosi, if you take Torrey Horton away early, he's going to start looking at other receivers. That means he's going to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. And I found this little nugget, and I think this will help Texas get home. You flood that short passing game area from 0 to 9 yards. 51% of his passes are in that range. You flood that area. Force him to hold on to the ball, go deeper into the progression, go to the next layer, all right, of their passing game to the 10 to 19-yard area, the intermediate passing area. His time to throw goes from 2.3 seconds in that short area, 0 to 9 yards, to 3.2 seconds anytime he's got to throw the intermediate area, 10 to 19 yards. That's almost a second difference. That's what you want. You want him to hold on to the ball just a second longer, get deeper into the progression, or decide to get to the second layer of that passing game and throw to the intermediate area. If he does that, you got a chance to get home. Trey Moore, Barron Terrell, Ethan Burke, Colton Bosick, everybody can get home, all right, in 3.2 seconds. Not many can get home in 2.3 seconds. And that's what I would do. Flood that short game, make him throw the football to that intermediate area. So that's why. So I think they're going to the tendency break is going to be deep ball, and the tendency breaker for them, or it may be the counter to you playing bump and run. And also think the tendency breaker will be putting Horton in the slot more often. I think they're going to do that too. All right, so that's how I think the game plan for Colorado State is going to break down. But for Texas, just take away Torrey Horton, and they may decide to play it straight up. If they do, I think that makes things easier for Torrey Horton. And why would you want to make life easy for him? I want to make life hell for, and then I think Braden following Nicolosi will throw you more interceptions because he's just going to be trying to throw the guys he has no chemistry with. That's Armani Winfield who just got there. And I think Goffney played sparingly last year, but he's also a transfer that came in from SMU. Him and Torrey Horton, they got great chemistry. They got great chemistry. I mean, that's a bromance going on. You want to break up the bromance. All right, we got to break up this segment. Get to the break. We come back. We'll have off the record. I'll tell you why my sizzling hot take, a decade-old sizzling hot take, is probably going to go cold this football season. We'll explain on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off of the record. For years you guys have heard my take on why the Belichick coaching tree is just so bad. It's a terrible coaching tree. The gist of it is, I won't share the whole thing. Belichick is not a very open person. He's not very communicative. He doesn't like to share information, not with the media, not with anybody. His press conferences are, kind of one word answer, and he mumbles a lot. He runs his organization like a clandestine, very clandestine, secret organization. Whether you're talking about the, the way that he develops coaches, or whether you're talking about the information he shares with his coaches. I mean, the Malcolm Butler example we've talked about. Still don't know why he didn't start the Super Bowl. We know about Spygate, that kind of stuff, right? And because he is so secretive, and because he is not someone who likes to share information and likes to talk and communicate, his coaches never learn why he is such a brilliant coach. He never gives them the lessons. He just gives them the task that he wants them to execute, and that, like the CIA and the FBI, like he's not giving them the the why, and he's not giving them the macro to it. They only see the micro. And as a coach, when you're trying to develop and you're trying to grow and evolve, the more information, the better. And that's why coaching trees of Bill Parcells and coaching trees of Andy Reid and Bill Walsh, those are famously some of the all-time greatest coaching trees, because those guys were outgoing and forthcoming, and they held court with the media. They authored books, and they had public speaking engagements. Hell, you could argue that Bill Walsh was professorial in the way that he carried himself, right? He wrote books about his philosophy. He wanted to share all of his ideas and share all of his innovation with the world. And Bill Belichick has, kept all of his innovation and all of his secrets literally in a book in a playbook that nobody has access to. I'm not making it up. That actually is documented, that he carries it around with him, but he's been essentially stockpiling and creating these concepts and ideas for years, but he does not share them with his own coaches or with anybody else. Right. And that's why your coaching tree is bad, because the coaching tree is about sharing. And the more you share, the more of an open book you are, the better your coaching tree is going to be. Right. You can't monopolize information and monopolize innovation and think that's going to keep your advantage in the league. And that's what Belichick thought. Hey, if I don't share my ideas with my coaches, when teams poach my coaches, they'll never have my ideas, and I'll keep my advantage. But we know that's not the advantage he had. Tom Brady was the advantage, and the combination of the two. That was a bit. So his coaching tree's been terrible. We all know that. Other than Nick Saban, his coaching tree's been really bad. Well, that part of that take about Belichick just being a very secretive person, not wanting to share information and not wanting to be accessible, that is now going to change. That part of the take is dead. The coaching tree does still suck. But he's now going to be doing a breakdown with Peyton Manning prior to the Manning cast on ESPN Plus. The breakdown with Peyton and Belichick. He's going to be more accessible there than ever before. They're going to also have him on the Pat McAfee's going to have him on regular on his show every Monday. He's going to join to talk about the NFL and his opinion on what's happening in the league. He's also going to appear on Inside the NFL. He's also going to host a show with Underdog Fantasy. And he'll co-host the Let's Go podcast, which previously was co-hosted by Tom Brady. Belichick's going to be all over the damn place. So I can no longer say that Belichick is not someone who, he doesn't like the media, and he doesn't like to talk to the media, and he doesn't want to be an open book and doesn't want to share information, because these are all opportunities where I'm assuming he's going to give up a lot of his innovation, a lot of his ideas, a lot of his philosophy on football. And he's never done that before. We've never seen that. He's never had the opportunity either. But you can do that when you coach. A lot of coaches do that while they coach. They put their ideas out there, innovation, and write books. Bill Walsh did it. Parcells did it. That's not Belichick's way. But now that he's no longer coaching, looks like we're going to get the kind of the outgoing, really the extroverted version of Bill Belichick.
We'll see.
There you go.
We'll see how he does. I mean, everybody wants
to be good.
I mean, the question will be, does he actually give anything up, or does he just sit there and go, well, I would have done it better? And they go, how? He goes, I have my ways. And I wouldn't have done that. Why would you not do that? Oh, I wouldn't do that because it's a bad idea. And like I think like he's a guy that he have to prove that he will say innovative and new ideas other than just saying things were better when I did it. Why not let me do it again? I should do it. Because Tom Brady right now is on the flip of he does a little of both.
He does.
Because he'll do like you'll hear one interview and he'll give good insight and be like, this is what they need to do, and then he'll get him another and be like, things were better in my day. We didn't complain. I was like, you complained after every single play, Tom. Every single one. So it depends on, is he crotchety old man who hates the game because it passed him by and he feels it didn't and it shouldn't have, or is it football genius sits here and lets you learn under the coaching tree? And so I think that's going to be the question, but we'll see, because he's going to have plenty of opportunities to do it and get better. But I'll believe it when I see it with Bill Belichick, because he has never really done well under anybody questioning him.
No, not at all. And I love what you said about, if he's going to just reference, hey, when we did it, we did this and we did it this way and it was better. Or is he going to actually try to educate folks and let us into the thought process of trying to solve that problem or address that issue, whatever it is? Because that's what people want. That's the kind of insight they want. Like, what's the thought process of a coach? Give us the anecdote. You can always relate it back to what you did. But then in addition to that, I would like to see how he would today try to solve the problem and try to relate to the coach and all that. I want to watch it. Like, I'm a football junkie, so I really want to see if Belichick's going to reveal some of his, brilliance and some of his actual coaching genius to the world, because we know it's there. He just doesn't like to give anybody access to it because I guess at one point he thought, I'm giving up my advantage.
Yeah.
Well, now you don't have to worry. Well, now he wants to coach again. See, that's the thing. Yeah. Is he worried about giving up too much? Now he wants to coach again, and now he's not going to give us, authenticity. He's not going to give us genuine insight and analysis, because he believes, well, like he did before, if I give up too much information is power. Like he's J. Edgar Hoover or something. And if I give up too much information, I'm giving up all my power. And like, that's not really the way it works. Like guys like Sean McVay and guys like Shanahan's damn scheme is everywhere. It's all over the league now.
Yeah.
You think the Shanahans have been trying to boss hog and monopolize information and innovation? No, they realize in order to get access to the best coaches, I need to share this information. And then I'll keep getting the best coaches, because they all want, hey man, I got to learn. I want to learn from the Shanahan himself, or I want to learn from Sean McVay himself. But you got to share it. You're going to have to give it away. That if you're a great coach, you'll just continue to evolve, because when those other guys come in, like Sean, you don't think Sean McVay gave Shanahan some secrets? You don't think he came in there with some new ideas and went, you know what, man, I would do it this way. And Shanahan went, damn, that's actually pretty. That's, you know what? I'm adding that. That's it. You don't think that was the case with Mike McDaniel when he came in?
When they were all working in that Washington, when they were all working for Washington under,
come on, man,
under Mike Shanahan, and all those guys were just down there, and all the reports, like they were just sitting talking football every night and every day,
innovating,
and just going through. Like, they all shared their ideas and they grew because of it. So that'll be the question: is Bill Belichick going to be able to be that guy and be open and and enjoy the game, and we can all enjoy it together, or is it still, I want to coach and I should be coaching? So I'm not giving you that.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that side. I will. You know what? I'm going to just hold, reserve judgment, and wait till I watch them and see, and I'll report back, because I'm going to try to catch most of this, because if it's Belichick's talking ball, I'm on football theories, it can only help me too. So if he is giving you information, he may not give much, as Patrick mentioned. All right, there you go. So that is a little off the record. We come back, I'll tell you why I want to hate this dude, because of who he plays for, but hard to hate a dude whose actions speak louder than his words. We'll talk about that. We'll also get into Rod's rant. The quarterback transfer market has hit a peak that we have never seen in college football. It may have jumped a shark, if you will. We'll dive into that discussion. And we also got some other NFL news, notes, and nuggets. CeeDee Lamb's new contract putting a lot of pressure on some teams to sign their top wideouts. We'll give you that story as well. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, Patrick Davis, the Ideillionaire, he comes up with a very creative new theme for the show based on some inspiration of some kind. And today he was inspired by college football because it's starting up officially for Texas, kicking off on Saturday. And most of the college football world will be kicking off on Saturday, week 1. And so all the songs reference Saturday in some form or fashion. That is the theme for New Theme Thursday. Patrick also comes up with the topics for the big fat poll of the day. Give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day, Patrick.
Big fat poll of the day today. How many turnovers will Texas cause against Colorado State? That is what we're asking you today. And right now we gave you 4 options: 0, 1, 2, and 3 plus. Right now 2 is still leading the way with 67% of the votes. 1 coming in second with about 15%, 14% for 3 plus, and then like a vote, maybe 2 for 0. Well, a couple haters there saying no turnovers, but most people falling right in that 2 range where Rod is at.
Dose of them babies, yeah, I think that's the most realistic. They get 3, that seems a bit high. If they get 0, I think we'd all be disappointed if that was the case. So 2 seems about it. And I think they got enough ball hawks on the defense, enough havoc-minded players where I think they get at least 2. And Nicolosi last season threw 16 interceptions. So I think that also, if he hasn't improved, even if he has improved, that seems to be something that he's had some issues with. So I like that for the topic for the big fat poll of the day. We'll continue to talk Texas football. Of course, we've been previewing that matchup. We did last hour. We went behind the burnt orange curtain, and we'll continue to do that all week long, of course. But I want to get into some other topics, some NFL news, notes, and nuggets here. The wide receiver market, which has exploded in this offseason and now continues to be a heated market because you have 2 receivers now, Jamar Chase and Brandon Ayuk, post the CeeDee Lamb deal, who are looking to get brand new deals of their own. And I think management is starting to grow frustrated, at least based on some of the reports. We'll get into that too coming up. Also, we'll dive into the quarterback transfer market in college football, give you some numbers that are shocking about the new era of college football as relates to the quarterback transfer market. We'll dive into that too coming up a little bit later on in this segment. And also, we'll get into who said that. I got a special who said that for you guys that is about this player who's become a fan favorite already based on their preseason performance. He's come up on the show before, but we'll dive into that when we get into who said that on the side. But Raj Rant, we'll talk about the quarterback transfer market, and we'll get into the rivals. There's some news going on with the Texas rivals, the Aggies and the Sooners, both in the news. We'll tell you why. But first, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros salvaged a game in their series with the Phillies with a dominant 10-0 win yesterday. Spencer Arrighetti carried a no-hitter into the 8th inning before leaving after pitching 7 2/3 innings, striking out 11 in the shutout win for the Astros. Yordan Alvarez also added 3 straight home runs in the game to get the bats going before their weekend series with the Royals starts today. And the Rangers won both of their games, their double headers over the White Sox yesterday. Marcus Semien and Corey Seager drilled in runs in the 7th in Game 1 to grab the lead in their 3-1 victory. Then in Game 2, Seager hit the go-ahead run in the 9th, and an amazing Travis Janikowski walk-off steal and catch led the Rangers to a 4-3 win in Game 2. Nathan Eovaldi takes the mound for the Rangers today as they look to sweep the White Sox. And in college football, Week 1 kicks off tonight with number 11 Missouri versus Murray State, number 12 Utah versus Southern Utah, number 22 Kansas versus Lindenwood, and number 24 NC State versus West Carolina. In other action, North Carolina faces Minnesota in a battle of 2 teams, hoping to surprise with new quarterbacks at the helm. Speaking of new quarterbacks, in the NFL, 2 starters named in the last 24 hours. Russell Wilson will be the starter in Pittsburgh, and Jacoby Brissett will be the starter in Week 1 for the New England Patriots. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Appreciate those. Yeah, some starting quarterbacks. It's crazy. The Pittsburgh Steelers, for the 4th straight year, they're going to have a different quarterback starting the season opener. For the 4th straight season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just cannot figure things out post Ben Roethlisberger at the quarterback position. And yet, the best team in the NFL in the last 4 years in one-score games is the Pittsburgh Steelers. 73% win percentage in one-score games.
And you assume it's going to go to 5 years because you assume neither one of these quarterbacks will be back next year.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely, yeah. I'd put money on that. That's a pretty safe bet that it'll go to 5 years. That is how many teams in the NFL they got to be the only team that's happened to, right? There's no way.
The Browns have had to do that. The Browns have had to do that at some point.
Yeah, because Deshaun,
like pre-Deshaun.
Well, I'm talking about in the last 5 years.
Okay, yeah. So it's like pre-Deshaun, it happened to the Browns clearly a bunch of times.
Yeah, like probably 10-year streak with the Browns. If we're looking at from that regard, yeah. But I'm talking about like in the last 4 or 5 years, because a lot of teams have. We talked about this. Teams have been reaching for the quarterback position, right? They're overdrafting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been more stability.
No, you'd say the Raiders' the last 3, right?
Yeah,
because Raiders was Derek Carr, then it went Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Now it's Aiden. Now it's actually it's Gardner Minshew now.
The Saints may be,
but they've had Derek Carr last 2 years.
They've had Derek Carr last 2 years. Yeah, I'm trying. There's not many teams that have had that much inconsistency at quarterback, like starting the opener. It's kind of looking at.
Commanders were there for a little while. Wonder how long the Commander streak was post Kirk Cousins, because then they had Heineke and they were trying to figure that out and who they were playing there. Yep. Sam Corral, or not say, was it Corral? No, not Mike Corral. Sam.
No,
it was Sam.
One.
It was Sam.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I know
his
you're talking
name
about.
Right
I can't
now,
think exactly. I lose track, but I know you're talking about.
Matt Corral was the other quarterback that was drafted that year.
Yeah, no, and then Matt Corral just
got cut from.
Got cut.
Yeah, from the Vikings.
He's not retiring, but he might be. Okay. Yeah. No, you're right about that. I just haven't. I don't know
Sam
if I
Howell.
can.
Sam Howell.
Sam Howell. Great job. Yeah. North
go.
Carolina. Good job. Well done. Yeah. I just don't know if I just didn't think the Pittsburgh Steelers were in that kind of quarterback purgatory, because they're not in hell. Hell would be good for them right now. If they were in quarterback hell, they'd be losing. And then they'd be so bad they would get a lottery pick in the NFL draft so they could drop the quarterback. Their problem is they're in purgatory. They got a Hall of Fame coach who's damn good enough to coach them to 73% win percentage in one-score games. But their quarterback position, their quarterback situation is so abysmal that it drags them down. And all they can be right now is average. Be a team that makes the playoffs or has a winning record. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record. And that right now is killing the standard for the Steelers, and it's killing this franchise. They got to get a quarterback. They got to do it, and they got to do it soon too. All right, there you go. So we'll get into this. Is something I think is interesting. I told you we want to talk about the rivals a little bit. I was listening to an SEC podcast, and they were talking about the Aggies. And the conversation was about basically the first half of the season, how good you think the Aggies are going to be. And I got to admit, I did not realize it, but the Aggies' first 6 games, there's a really good chance the Aggies could start the season 5-1. 4-2 at worst. I think they're going to be 5-1. I think they're going to lose to either Notre Dame or Mizzou. Their favorite versus both. Out of their first 6 games, they got 1 game on the road, and that's at Florida. But they got to play Notre Dame, then McNeese, then they're at Florida. That Florida one could be tricky because that's before Florida has to go on their, treacherous run where Florida has the toughest schedule in the country, but it doesn't start really getting tough, and they don't really start that Herculean stretch, if you will, until later on in the season. So they'll still be fresh, and they're really a talented team. But who knows how long Billy Napier is going to last. By the time they play Texas, they may have an interim coach. But early on, when the Aggies play them, you may still get a really, good Gator squad that has hope and it still is healthy pretty much. And they do have talent. I mean, they're one of the top 5 most talented teams Texas is going to play on their schedule this year. So they're one of the more talented teams in the SEC that just haven't been coached well. And then you got Bowling Green, Arkansas. They're better than Arkansas. So I think they'll beat Arkansas. And then you got Missouri and Mizzou. They could lose that game because Mizzou's got a really good quarterback in Brady Cook, I believe. Is Luther Burden, the wide receiver, is a really good player. I like Eli Drinkowitz, the head coach. So I think that could be a loss, but I only see one loss really in the first 6 games for the Aggies. I think they might end up being 5-1. If they are 5-1, there's going to be so much hype about the Aggies and leading up to that Texas A&M matchup. Now Texas can't worry about that because they got Georgia and Oklahoma in the middle of the schedule, but the Aggies are going to potentially have a fast start. And if they have a fast start, like I said, that ticket's already what the average ticket cost for the Texas A&M game is the highest average ticket for any game this upcoming college football season already. If the Aggies end up, and that's without the Aggies being projected to be really good. I think they are projected at 8 wins, somewhere around there. But if the Aggies exceed expectations, get to 9, be a team that could get 10 wins if you include bowl games and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, I think that the hype for that game could be unprecedented potentially, with it being the rekindling of the rivalry and everything else. I've said it. I've been on a record this year saying it's bigger than a Texas OU game this year, only this year, but it feels bigger this year. Paul Feinbaum agreed. I think a lot of folks out there are starting to agree with that. If the Aggies are going to be good, that's a whole nother issue. And I think the key to the Aggies being good is really the offense. The defense is going to be good. The defense has Nick Scourton. He's going to be a first-round pick. He's a stud. They have Shamar Turner, who's also on that D-line. Mike Ickel says that's the identity of the team. Best part of the team is their D-line, and they are loaded there. If you don't know Nick Scourton, he'll be a household name, I think, for SEC fans by the end of the season, and I think he'll be a first-round draft pick. But if they keep Connor Wigman up and healthy, they really could make some noise. They're a different team when Connor Wigman's been healthy. He's only started 8 games for him in the last 2 years, and hadn't been able to stay healthy because the offensive line doesn't protect him. So got to get the offensive line together. Colin Klein coming in, calling new plays, but Connor Wigman 5-3 the last 2 years, 74 QBR, 16 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 7.2 yards per drop back. Every other Aggie quarterback in that time span in the last 2 years, 7-10, 52 QBR, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 6.6 yards per drop back. It's different with him in there. And before he got hurt, Pro Football Focus had him as a top 5 graded quarterback overall, 91.9, and in passing grade at 90.9. Now, you got to extrapolate that, but I think, if he stays healthy, he can be a guy that projects as a first-round pick. Matter of fact, Matt Miller in his last mock draft, way too early mock draft of the 2025 draft, he had Connor Wigman as a first-round pick. Top 20, I think, going to the Rams. So 96th percentile in clean pocket grade, 97th percentile in standard drop back grade, 94th percentile in early down pass grade, 97th percentile in non-play action passes, 94th percentile on throws at or beyond the sticks, 98th percentile in avoiding negative plays, 88th percentile in sack rates, and 97th percentile versus pressure. All the numbers say if he stays healthy, he's going to be a difference maker, and the Aggies are going to be the best version of themselves. But that is a big if, buts, candies, and nuts kind of thing. All right, speaking of our rivals, let's talk about Oklahoma. I don't want to like this dude, but I'll admit, hard not to like Danny Stutzman, the linebacker for Oklahoma.
Oh, I saw this.
You saw this?
Yeah.
Man,
I don't like liking people.
I don't like liking this dude either, man. I don't want to like this dude. He's a Sooner. All right. Everything that he represents, I despise. It's sickening, but this is pretty damn cool. He's giving away $50,000 of his NIL earnings to 18 walk-ons on the team. He's going to give each of them a JBL care package. I'm assuming that's like who his NIL endorsements with. So give them a JBL care package, but he's going to split up the $50,000 between 18 walk-ons. Damn. I hate when other teams show signs of a positive culture, especially your rivals.
I know.
Damn it. It's like, I know. It's sickening.
It's gross.
It is, but you're like, oh, that's I ain't gonna lie, man. That's pretty badass. That's legit, man. That's positive culture. That guy's a leader. He's a stud. No pun intended. He's a stud. He's one of the best linebackers in the country. Then you start to figure out, oh damn, he's got great football character too. Oh man, he's a leader on that team. Oh man, he's bringing the team closer with moves like that. So Longhorn fans should be aware. They might have a good culture going on. I don't know if they got the talent. The quarterback may throw a lot of interceptions, Jackson Arnold, but that defense I think is going to be legit. They got an All-American caliber player at every level of defense, every level. They had Bowman in the secondary, one of the interception leaders in college football last year. Stutzman is an All-American. And Dominic Williams, the kid from TCU that they signed, he's a guy that's going to play on Sundays too. So they got impact players at every level of their defense. So there you go. Also, the Sooners, how about this one? They're going to this is a tradition, I guess. And thank God we don't have to worry about it because Texas never goes to Norman to play Oklahoma. All right, you get to play them at a neutral site. Oklahoma is reportedly adding a Toby Keith sing-along song to their third and fourth quarter breaks for the 2024 season. Fans will benefit from improved connectivity, they say, and all this kind of stuff. And they said they're basically going to have a new real-time decibel meter to measure the crowd impact. And the Toby Keith tribute fourth quarter break will celebrate the Oklahoma icon, giving 85,000 fans the opportunity to sing along with the legendary Super Sooner fan. All right. All right, how about this? So, do the Longhorns have any songs that they play is a tradition now? What is our song that we play as a tradition?
I don't know. I'm sure there are some. I don't go to enough games.
Yeah,
I know,
like the jump around thing for a while.
They were doing that. I know at basketball,
they copied that from somebody.
Yeah, and then basketball was always Thunderstruck. Every game.
We should do something unique that's only Texas, though.
I know it. Well, it's because like the two big ones you would pick. I don't know what party song you could do that would really get the crowd hyped from Willie or George Strait.
Yeah, Willie. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you could do a kind of a sing-along thing with a Willie song. People love Willie.
I just don't know if they get as hyped. I think Toby Keith probably has some more like hype songs.
More hype songs. Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't really know the catalog, but I'm guessing.
No, you're right. Yeah. They honestly, we screwed up when we let other people start using Mo Bamba. I don't know how it got out and how it wasn't. Texas should have just paid money. I forget the guy who actually came up with the Mo Bamba song. But that should have been a Texas thing. It was about a Texas player. It should have been. And now you got like multiple programs around the country that use it as part of their kind of stadium tradition. And I think it's on the game too, actually. It's on the video game. I want to say one of the Big Ten teams uses it. That should have been ours. That should have been a nice stadium song for us. I don't know how
but I think we need to find one. We need to find one.
We do. I don't know why we don't have more of those. We don't. I will admit Texas does not have those. I ain't gonna lie. I don't like Toby Keith at all. I think
part of the problem.
But that is a kind of a cool tradition.
I think that's part of the problem though with Tech is that Austin is a very diverse, and the University of Texas at Austin is a very diverse. So it's hard to find something that everyone is just universally like, let's all go in on this. Because you're like, country, then there's going to be a lot of people that are like, well, I don't give a crap about that. And if you go hip hop, there's going to be a lot of people like, I don't give a crap about that. And so you kind of have to find that middle ground. And the reality is, if you're winning and you're in the right moment, it doesn't matter. Everyone's going to go, no, everything's awesome, beautiful and great right there.
Yeah, it's like music in a strip club. It's like it's all jamming because there are butt naked women around you. So it's like, hey man, this song pretty good. You ever listen to that song outside the strip club? It's like this song sucks. It's like because you don't have no alcohol and naked women around you. Yeah. The song is great.
They're sober in sunlight right now. Not gonna make this song good.
That's exactly right. So I think if you're winning in the moment, no matter what you play, this is the right time. The crowd will get hyped. But I think that's a pretty cool tradition for the Sooners. I hate to give props to our rivals, but I did the whole damn segment was props to our rivals. But I think it's a cool tradition that Toby Keith's gonna have a sing along. I don't know I don't know any Toby Keith songs, but I'm sure.
And I know that there's songs that Texas has. I know people are saying that like there's stuff there's not a song that everyone in the arena is like, yeah, let's sing, and everybody in the stadium goes, there isn't that song. There's songs that they're there. But there's not, and the Django Walker one I know he does.
Yeah,
it's not a big enough song. It needs to be a bigger song.
Yes, it's not iconic enough where everybody knows the words.
Everybody knows the words, and so I know that exists. I know that there's a lot of people love it. That's awesome. We need more like that. But I'm saying it needs to be like a massive hit song that everybody knows, and that's how everybody sings along to it.
And that's why it's tough because it's only a few of those.
Exactly.
And even fewer.
Because that's the one is when you walk into the stadium and you've never heard anything, and that song comes on, you're like, oh, and then you can get into it.
That's true. Yes. You're right. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know where to start there. But you're right. It's not like a lot of artists that are iconic enough for Texas for fans to know those songs of those artists when they hear them. So maybe we'll never have that. That's okay.
That's all right. I do want to get back to I looked it up because I was right about the Commanders being in quarterback hell.
Are they really? Yeah.
So eight straight season this year that they will have a different starting quarterback on week 1. They had in 2017 was Kirk Cousins
crazy.
last year was 2017. Since then, 2018 is Alex Smith. 2019 was Case Keenum. 2020 was Dwayne Haskins. 2021 was Taylor Heineke. 2022 was Carson Wentz. 2023 was Sam Howell, and 2024 will be Jaden Daniels.
Wow. Damn, that's got to be the longest streak. There's no way.
Look, that one took me a minute to look up. So, but yes, that is one that Kirk Cousins last year is 2017, and that was your start of 8 changing every year.
Brutal.
That is a lot.
Man, that is a lot. Oh,
so,
man.
And they're hoping Jaden hits, but like they drafted Sam Howell and it didn't, and they already moved on.
Yeah, I think Jaden is, at least he gives you enough to explore like long term, because he's got the dual threat factor working in terms of building the offense around him. He's got a lot of raw tools. But I like Jaden Daniels. I do. I like him as an overall athlete, but who knows? You never know if they're going to hit. I mean, this is all an inexact science at best. And I usually call it more of an art form than anything. You got a 25% pretty much chance of hitting on a quarterback or less.
Yeah. But that should tell you that the Commanders were just really, really bad through most of that stretch.
Really bad. Yeah.
And Pittsburgh wasn't. Like they weren't good, but they were not bad.
They were not bad. Okay. We come back. Something that may be bad. At the contract negotiations between the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk and Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals. This thing may go bad. It may sour, if you will. So we'll talk about that. We'll actually play some audio of the head coach and the GM from those respective teams. And you can hear the mounting frustration in their voice about those contract negotiations. So we'll talk about that. On the other side, we'll also get into the quarterback transfer market in college football. It has hit a peak unlike anything we've ever seen. We'll dive into that and give you those numbers on the other side as well, and some other NFL news, notes, and nuggets, which jam-packed as always right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. Got a couple of topics that I want to dive into here while we got some time. First topic is the quarterback transfer portal. The quarterback transfer market, I should say, via the transfer portal more than anything, and really how how active we've seen the quarterback transfer market become in college football over the last 7-8 years now. And I remember when it was still considered, it had a negative stigma for you to go into the transfer portal and be a transfer portal player. It means something went wrong. It means, you had to take the path less traveled to get to ultimately to get to the league. So usually something went horribly wrong, and you needed to go to the transfer portal. It was a last, it was one of the kind of worst case scenarios. And now that is not the case at all. Now guys go to transfer portal. They just go there for opportunity. Guys go there for more options. Your coach leaves or the coach doesn't like you, gives you that second chance. And it really has affected the quarterback position more so than any other position monetarily, but also in terms of the freedom of movement now at the quarterback position. So out of the 68 power conference teams, all right, 68 power conference teams, 43 of them will, or at least project to start a transfer quarterback. 43 out of the 68 power conference teams are projected to start a transfer quarterback, a 63% clip that is honestly is right around what I have researched over the last 5 or 6 years. That's right around the transfer rate for a blue chip quarterback. If you look at the blue chip transfer rate in college football in the last 5-6 years, so that means when you recruit a 4 or 5 star quarterback, there's about a 60+% chance, around between 60 and 65% chance they're going to transfer. As soon as they step on campus, as soon as they sign their name on, that the dotted line to letter of intent, there's a chance that 65% chance that they're going to end up transferring if they're a blue chip quarterback. And I think if I looked at those numbers, that number would probably be higher depending on what conference you're in. 30 of those 43 projected transfer starters are in the first year at their new school. So 30 of the 43 projected transfer starting quarterbacks, first year in that system. And something else that I've started to notice, and number one is just the money associated with quarterbacks in the transfer portal. We talked about this too when there were studies done by 247 Sports and Open Doors about the average NIL value of a quarterback. And the way you find that value, you can find it, coming out of high school, but there are more and more quarterbacks who find their value in the NIL world, NIL market via the transfer portal. I mean, that it represents the free market, right? That's NIL represents the free market, and the transfer portal is free agency. Your chance to see what your value is in the open market. And Jason Belzer, CEO and co-founder of Sunil, Student Athlete NIL, an organization that manages more than 50 collectives around the nation, they claim, based on their research and data, the average NIL cost of a transfer quarterback, just period, transfer quarterback, who these days in college at basically, I'm assuming higher levels of college football, $350,000 is the average NIL cost of a transfer quarterback this past year. He also said fewer than 10 quarterbacks cracked the $1 million mark, and I'm assuming we know Quinn Ewers is probably one of those guys. He says quarterback is the most valued of any position, and in this article here, it points out that there are 8 quarterbacks of the 43 projected starting quarterbacks who have transfer starting quarterbacks in these 68 power conference schools. 8 of them are on at least their third school. 8 of them are on at least their third school. 6 of them that I, off the top of my head, they are gonna be projected starters for the second time, for a second program in their college football careers. So you got 43 transfer starting quarterbacks out of the 68 power conference schools. That's a 63% clip. 30 of them are first year starting quarterbacks at their new school. 8 of them are on at least their third school. The average, basically average starting quarterback, transfer starting quarterback this season has spent 4.7 years in college, which means they are like 23, 24, 25, 26. They're bringing maturity to your program. They're more mature than they've ever been. And now with, revenue sharing happening, I mean, that's these coaches more and more, they're figuring if I have to rebuild a program, I might as well go pay for me a big time quarterback. So they claim on their research, $350,000 is what it costs you to get a transfer quarterback via the portal. All right. In NIL costs. And I remember I looked at, it was John Talty, I believe is his name, from 247 Sports. Remember, he did as a extensive breakdown of, he surveyed collectives, he surveyed agents and representatives and student athletes, and he wanted to get a NIL market range, all right, of the cost for different positions. And he claims the quarterback market range is between $500,000 and $800,000 from his research. And then Open Doors, which has been around since the inception of NIL, since it became the law of the land, and they track NIL transactions across the country via collectives and directives and student athletes, and also through agents and representatives. They claim, and this is verbatim from their annual, they do kind of an annual kind of newsletter and give a lot of their stats and data from the previous season. And they said the salary for, and they claim salary here, they put it in quotes, that Open Doors found for a starting quarterback for a top 25 team is expected to jump to $821,000 in 2024. Last year, they said it was at $648,000. This is top 25 teams. So a little bit different, right? He said it was $648,000 last year, and the firm anticipates the salary, NIL salary, to grow, and it will be a salary once they start revenue sharing. So I guess technically you could argue that's the case. They said it will grow to $990,000 by 2025, and $1.3 million by the time it gets to be 2027. That the average cost of a starting quarterback for a top 25 team will exceed $1 million. Unbelievable. And honestly, with the way things are trending, I don't necessarily disagree with it. Remember, we're about to play Colorado State. Braden Fowler Nicolosi, he claims, and at least his coach claims, and I'm assuming told his coach, that he was offered $600,000 by K-State to leave Colorado State, and I'm assuming compete for the starting job there at K-State because Avery Johnson's there, or be the starter there at K-State. Not sure exactly what the details of the conversation were, but that was said by their head coach, Jay Norvell. And so they were willing to pay $600,000, we're assuming, for a quarterback that threw 22 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, and over 3,400 yards last season. That gives you $600,000. Yeah. I wish I was a quarterback. I wish I was a quarterback. All right. Getting back to, let's talk about the NFL really quickly while we got some time. CeeDee Lamb signed his new deal, or at least agreed to a new deal with the Dallas Cowboys, making him the second highest paid wide receiver in the NFL behind Justin Jefferson. Got the highest signing bonus in NFL history for a wide receiver. Got $100 million guaranteed. And I've been saying for a while, these wide receiver deals with the wide receiver market just exploding. You got 5 wide receivers now making at least $30 million. Only 2 other non-quarterbacks at any position make at least $30 million. You got 7 players total, non-quarterbacks, making at least $30 million, and 5 of those are wide receivers. By the way, that number is going to grow to 7 pretty soon. And that's just going to put the wide receiver position by far and away the second most valuable position in the NFL monetarily. But I've been saying for a while, these wide receivers sign these big deals. It's going to put a lot of pressure on teams to sign or extend their top wide receivers. And the wide receivers who think they're really good, like a Jamar Chase, like a Brandon Ayuk, watching all these wide receivers get paid, it's just making them more emboldened. Right? They're becoming bolder and bolder about how they want to handle their negotiations. So at first, we all thought Jamar Chase was just holding in, as I call a hold in instead of a holdout. He was there at practice. He was dressing, wearing team gear, and even participating in drills with the team. Maybe not in every drill, but he was still there participating with the team. Well, things might have shifted yesterday when it was reported by a Bengals beat reporter who everybody along with the media, they were waiting in the media window for Jamar Chase to show up because he hadn't shown up to practice yet. And then he arrived at practice 13 minutes late. And this is 13 minutes like from them starting practice. He arrives late in street clothes, not even dressed out. Got street clothes on, got glasses on, got his wave cap on. Oh, his body language was sending a message. Man, I ain't doing a damn thing till y'all pay me. He got sunglasses on in practice. He's got the do-rag on, and I believe, he just got some shorts on and the shoes. I mean, he's as casual as he gets, very passive aggressive. So Zach Taylor, who prior to this instance and this passive aggressive hold in by Jamar Chase, who was telling the media, hey, he's practicing, he's going to be with the team, he is present with us right now, he has suddenly changed his tune. Here's Zach Taylor.
Something changed between yesterday when you said that you expected Jamar to practice and today him not showing up.
I said that yesterday. I think every day is a new day. We'll keep working through it. Not going to make predictions on what tomorrow brings. At the end of the day, Jamar's a great dude that means a lot to this team, and we'll just continue to take it day to day.
When does this become a distraction?
It's not. I mean, it's a one-off situation that you got to deal with, and again, we'll just continue to take it day to day.
You still expect you to play in the Open?
This is all part of that plan that we've talked about, so this is just the later stages of that plan. But I think it's wise for me just to say we're going to take it day to day and see what tomorrow brings.
As part of the plan, Zach, did you build in your own mind the fact that this could happen? Things could change. He could maybe not practice.
I think you learn enough to not let anything catch you off guard, and it's just, again, the smartest thing for us to do is just keep working through it, keep taking it day to day. Again, he's a huge member of our team, and appreciate him and look forward to getting him back hopefully at some point soon.
All right. So, he said, we're going to take it day to day because basically he realizes I have no control of this situation. That'll between Jamar Chase and management and ownership. And the Bengals notoriously are cheap. And I don't know if they're cheap, but they are considered to be cheap or perceived to be cheap. And I think a lot of this is because their owners aren't billionaires. I mean, net worth wise, they're actually the only team owned by an owner who is not considered a billionaire. So doesn't have as much liquid cash as some of the other owners out there either. And Jamar Chase is going to want a lot of straight cash, homie. Brandon Ayuk also wants a lot of straight cash, homie. And this negotiation has been all over the place. At first, we thought he was going to be traded to two other teams potentially who had already agreed to trade, to the terms of the trade, I should say. And then the 49ers, they thought they were going to end up retaining him and they were going to end up signing and extending Brandon Ayuk. And now we're not sure where the negotiation stands between Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers. Here is John Lynch, the GM, who sounds and looks visibly frustrated when he's asked about how the contract negotiations are going with Brandon Ayuk.
Was it communicated to Brandon's camp at any point, say in the last few weeks, that he would be expected to practice starting?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into our communication again, but there's, at some point you got to play.
Some point you got to play. And Shano has already said, my man Kyle Shannon has already said he is making plans and arrangements to game plan for week 1 without Brandon Ayuk and without Trent Williams, because he's assuming either they're not going to be there because they're not going to get the contracts done in time, but even if they do get them done, that those guys have not had the proper time to practice, and maybe you can risk or at least a higher risk of injury, potentially just throwing those guys in there. So they're already prepping for week 1 without two of their all-pro players in Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk. All right, we come back. We'll get into who said that. That's when my man Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice. Hopefully you can recall and identify who said that. We'll do that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, plays jams that celebrate the new theme, whatever that creative theme is going to be. And today, the new theme is Saturday because he's really excited, as we all are, to kick off the college football season, not only for Texas, but the rest of the college football world. Week 1 of college football on Saturday. So all the songs are celebrating and referencing Saturday, which will be the start of college football season. He also does a great job coming up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and that is already posted for you on the X account at the Horn ATX. Patrick simply wants to know how many turnovers will Texas cause against Colorado State. And right now, the winner, at least not the winner right now, the lead seems to be the leader is 2. Right now, it seems like most of you guys who voted on the Longhorns causing and getting 2 takeaways versus Colorado State, 68% of you. So it looks like that is the clear favorite. Then 14% say they'll get at least 3 or more takeaways, and 15% of you said they'll get just 1 takeaway. All right, that's the topic for the big fat poll today. Go vote on it at the Horn ATX. Now it's time for Who Said That. That's when we play pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the familiarity of the voice or the context clues, you have to identify or recall who said that.
You had a lot of nicknames in college. Have your teammates latched on to one yet?
There's been a few. The favorite one I would say is Crocodile because my pet alligator. I would say that's probably the big one coming into it. So.
Yeah, you beat me to that. Can you?
I spoiled the news. Yeah, I got him 2nd or 3rd grade probably. It's a Christmas present, and yeah, so I've had him a little while now, and he's probably around 4 or 5 feet.
How many pounds?
Crocodile or an alligator?
Alligator, yeah, but I named him Crocky J when I was younger because I thought it sounded a little better. So, but yeah, he's I would say probably 90 to 100 pounds. Yeah, he's in a big aquarium back home.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Carson Steele. We talked about him a little bit yesterday, the undrafted running back, free agent running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, made the team. He's better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm telling you right now. He's the second best running back on that team behind Pacheco.
I know that the stuff I've seen of him when he was running the ball, he ran the ball well. He's not a star back, but he's a great back to have in your backfield.
No doubt. I'll give you a couple of numbers for you. In the preseason, he had 3 preseason games, totaled 87 yards, 2 touchdowns on just 11 rushes. He forced 9 missed tackles. 81 of his 87 rushing yards came after contact, and 3 of those 11 runs went for 15 or more yards. Dude's a stud. And I don't know why he went undrafted. Guys, in college, he had 706 touches for 3,780 yards. Averaged over 5.4 yards per touch, had 30 touchdowns. He went to UCLA and Ball State. I mean, the guy, like I said, I don't know how he ended up being undrafted. In college, averaged 5 yards per carry, 184 missed tackles, 44 runs of 15 yards or more, 3,259 total rushing yards, and guy went undrafted. In preseason, 7.9 yards per carry, 7.4 yards after contact per carry, 27% explosive run rate in the preseason. Rookie running backs who average at least 4 yards after contact in the preseason. Carson Steele at 7.4. Right behind him, Marshawn Lloyd at 6.0. Dude, I'm telling you, they found another one, an undrafted free agent, and he owns an alligator. Dude's a star. He's a star in the making. You're a star too, man. Thank you for everything you do, Patrick. I appreciate you. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves. But more importantly, take care of each other. We love you guys. Take care. And until next time, hook 'em horns and peace.